The sky splits open like a jagged, necrotic wound. A man drops from the tier, hitting the cracked pavement with the sound of a falling hammer. 10,000 years of silence ends in a single, deafening heartbeat. Do-Yun Kang stands up, his shadow stretching long over the ruins of a forgotten world. He is back, and the air itself seems to recoil from his presence. Before the dust even settles, a squad of high-ranking executioners rounds the corner. They wear the polished, white gold armor of the state, their faces hidden behind cold, emotionless visors. One of them points a glowing lance at our boy, shouting that he's an unregistered rift traveler. They don't even ask his name, they just want to erase him. Big mistake. Do-Yun doesn't even look at them, his eyes scanning the horizon like he's reading a map made of ghosts. The executioner captain raises his hand, ready to call for a purge. The air shimmers as he activates a containment field, trying to pin Do-Yun down. Do-Yun just sighs, a sound that carries the weight of 1,000 dead civilizations. He taps the air with his index finger. He isn't hitting a person, he's hitting the seam of reality itself. The void shatter ripples out like a stone dropped in a pond of glass. The containment field shatters instantly, the sound like 1,000 crystal chandeliers hitting a marble floor. The executioners freeze, their fancy armor glowing and then flickering out like dying candles. Do-Yun walks forward, his movements effortless and predatory. He looks at the captain, who's now struggling to keep his footing on the collapsing ground. The captain tries to raise his weapon, but his mana shield is already spiderwebbed with cracks. He doesn't understand that his power is just a thin layer of paint on a crumbling wall. Do-Yun reaches out and snaps his fingers. The captain's armor disintegrates, falling away in jagged, smoking chunks. The man inside gasps, his face pale with the kind of terror that only comes when you realize you're already dead. Do-Yun leans in close, whispering that he's been away for a long time. He tells the guy that he's tired of people playing God with tools they don't even understand. The other executioners scramble back, their discipline dissolving into pure, unadulterated panic. They fire their mana rifles, but the energy just bends around Do-Yun, dissipating into the ether. He's not even trying to dodge. He's just walking through the storm like it's a light spring rain. He slams his palm into the chest of the nearest hunter. A shockwave of pure void energy erupts, blasting the poor guy through a reinforced concrete wall. He's done. The rest of the squad realizes they're way out of their league. They turn to flee, but the ground under their feet turns to liquid shadow. Do-Yun watches them sink, his expression as cold as a deep space vacuum. He doesn't feel a shred of pity for these state-sanctioned killers. In his old life, guys like this were the ones who threw the scraps to the scavengers. Now, he's the one deciding who gets to keep their head. He brushes some dust off his shoulder, his body suddenly flickering with a ghostly, translucent light. The soul tax is already kicking in. His life force burns like a fuse, a constant reminder that he's walking on borrowed time. He ignores the pain, his focus shifting to the blinking lights on the city's central surveillance grid. A red warning light pulses in the distance, casting a sickly glow over the slums. They know he's here. The entire city-state is waking up to the fact that their perfect little hierarchy has been breached. Do-Yun glances at the flickering horizon, a faint, dangerous smirk touching his lips. He's officially the most wanted man on the planet. Guess what happens next? He starts walking toward the city center, his footsteps echoing like a countdown clock. The hunters are coming, the generals are watching, and the sky is still bleeding energy. It's going to be a long night for the people in charge. He doesn't care about their laws or their precious rankings. He's here to dismantle the whole rotten structure, brick by brick. The executioners back at the rift site are still twitching in the rubble. Do-Yun doesn't even glance back. He's already moving to the next objective, his mind calculating the structural weak points of the entire city grid. He's a ghost in the machine, and he's about to crash the whole system. The first strike was just a warm-up. He feels the crack in his soul core widen, a sharp, stinging reminder of the price he's paying. He pushes through the agony, his resolve as hard as diamond. If he's going to fade away, he's going to take the entire corrupt order down with him. The surveillance drones swarm overhead, their cameras tracking his every movement. He looks up, his eyes glowing with a faint violet hue. He gives the nearest camera a polite, mocking wave. The drone drops out of the sky, its internal circuits fried by a simple flick of his wrist. Everything is going exactly according to plan. The city of the elite is about to learn what happens when the trash they threw away comes back to haunt them. The hunt is on, and for once, the predator is the one who's been dead for 10,000 years. Do-yun disappears into the shadows of the alleyway, leaving nothing behind but the scent of ozone and the sound of broken reality. The game has officially begun. He steps out from the swirling violet rift, boots crunching on the shattered glass of the plaza. The air here tastes like copper and failure. Our boy looks around, unimpressed by the glowing neon towers looming over the slums. A squad of elite executioners drops from the sky, their jets hissing as they land in formation. They think they've found a stray rift traveler to harvest. Big mistake. The captain steps forward, his armor gleaming with expensive, state-funded mana plating. He points a glowing spear at Do-yun and tells him to surrender his core for processing. Do-yun just stands there, hands in his pockets, looking like he's bored out of his mind. He doesn't even blink. The captain scoffs, clearly annoyed that this trash isn't shivering in his boots. He orders his men to initiate the purge. The executioners raise their rifles, barrels humming with enough voltage to fry a city block. Do-yun sighs, a sound that cuts through the static like a blade. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He just shifts his weight, his eyes flashing with a cold, ancient light. The lead executioner fires, a beam of concentrated plasma tearing toward our boy's chest. Do-yun barely leans to the side. The blast misses by an inch, vaporizing a decorative fountain behind him. The soldier's jaw drops behind his visor. That was the fastest reaction time this guy has ever seen. Do-yun takes one step forward, his shadow stretching unnaturally across the wet pavement. He's not running. He's closing the distance with the calm of an executioner. The captain screams for them to open fire at full capacity. They pull their triggers, unleashing a storm of energy that paints the plaza in blinding white light. Do-yun doesn't even bother to dodge. He just raises a hand, catching the incoming plasma in a field of swirling, void-black distortion. The energy hits his palm and simply vanishes. It's like feeding a bonfire a single match. The soldiers freeze, their confidence evaporating faster than the smoke from their barrels. Do-yun looks at the captain and tells him the equipment is cheap, just like his training. He flicks his wrist, and the captain's heavy spear snaps in half like a dry twig. The man stumbles back, clutching the broken metal, his composure shattering into a million pieces. He's clearly never faced someone who treats his rank like a joke. Do-yun lunges. He moves so fast he's just a blur of motion against the dark alley walls. He slams his elbow into the captain's chest, the sound of crunching armor echoing like a gunshot. The captain flies backward, skidding across the concrete until he slams into a reinforced pillar. He's done. The rest of the squad tries to regroup, but they're clearly out of their depth. They're just low-level fodder playing at being heroes. Do-yun doesn't give them a second to breathe. He sweeps his leg, sending the next guy sprawling into the mud. He stomps on the soldier's rifle, crushing the delicate mana core into useless dust. The soldier tries to scramble away, but Do-yun grabs him by the collar, lifting him off the ground. He basically tells the guy that he's lucky to be breathing at all. Then he tosses the soldier aside like a piece of trash. The last two executioners drop their weapons and try to turn and run. Bad idea. Do-yun snaps his fingers, and the gravity around them shifts, pinning them face first to the floor. They gasp, their bodies struggling against a pressure they can't even see. He walks over to them, his footsteps slow and deliberate. He asks them if they really thought they could stop him with this pathetic gear. They don't answer, mostly because they're too busy trying to keep their lungs working. He leaves them there, broken and miserable, as he turns his attention back to the city. The central grid is already screaming. Sirens wail in the distance, a high-pitched whine that fills the cold night air. He looks up at the massive surveillance drones hovering above the skyline. They're tracking him, marking him, painting him as the biggest threat in the sector. Guess what happens next? He doesn't hide. He starts walking toward the main security gate, his presence alone causing the streetlights to flicker and die. The city's elite are watching from their ivory towers, and they are absolutely terrified. They've never seen a ghost return from the void, have they? Do-yun checks his wrist, the skin glowing with a faint, pulsing rune. The soul tax is burning, but he pushes the pain down, burying it under a mountain of pure spite. He's not here to survive. He's here to burn their hierarchy to the ground. A group of security droids rounds the corner, their scanners locked onto his signature. They move in sync, a wall of steel and red laser sights. Do-yun doesn't stop walking. He reaches into the air, pulling a jagged shard of solidified void energy from the atmosphere itself. The droids stop, their logic processors struggling to categorize a threat that shouldn't exist. He doesn't give them time to compute. He swings the shard, a clean arc of darkness slicing through the droids like they're made of paper. They fall in pieces, sparks showering the street as their internal systems go dark. He doesn't even glance back at the wreckage. He's already moving to the next objective, his mind mapping the city's power grid. He's a wrecking ball in a world of glass. The sirens get louder, the sound of a city realizing it's already lost. He reaches the main gate, a massive bulkhead guarded by turrets that could level a skyscraper. They lock on, their barrels swiveling to track his heart. Do-yun stops. He looks into the central camera, his eyes glowing with that same violet, dangerous hue. He gives the operator a slow, mocking salute. The gates groan, the metal screaming as he forces the locking mechanisms to reverse. It's not even a fight anymore. It's just a demonstration of how far ahead he is. The security grid panics, flashing red across every screen in the district. Do-yun steps through the opening, the cold wind of the inner city hitting his face. He's inside. The hunters are coming, the generals are sweating, and he's just getting started. He feels the crack in his soul core widen again, a sharp, biting sting. He ignores it. He's got a list of names to cross off, and he's not leaving until the ink runs dry. The shadows of the city swallow him whole as he disappears into the labyrinth of streets. The hunt is officially on, and this time the predator isn't looking for scraps. He's looking for blood. The city doesn't know it yet, but its days are numbered. Everything is going exactly to plan. He's the nightmare they thought they'd buried 10,000 years ago, and he's back to collect. The slums are a rotting hive of scrap metal and desperation. Do-yun moves through the shadows like he owns the dark. He's looking for old man Huan, the only person who ever gave him a scrap of bread. He spots the shack tucked behind a wall of rusted pipes. It's surrounded by armed thugs from the Iron Tooth gang. They're laughing, their armor clanking with every movement. Our boy stops, his eyes narrowing as he scans the perimeter. There's Huan, chained to a mana siphon, his skin pale and gaunt. The gang leader, a guy with a metal jaw, is busy gloating. He's bragging about how the old man's soul core is worth a fortune. Big mistake. Do-yun doesn't charge in like an idiot. He knows the tech here is ancient, jury-rigged junk. He spots the main power conduit running under the floorboards. He taps his finger against the wall, feeding a tiny pulse of void energy into the seam. It's not a blast, it's a surgical strike. The mana siphon starts to whine, a high-pitched sound like a dying animal. The gang members look around, confused by the sudden static. The floorboards ripple as the energy feedback hits the wiring. Sparks shower the room, turning the air into a cage of electricity. The leader screams as his own weapon starts to overload. His metal jaw glows white-hot, welding itself shut. The other thugs scramble, but their gear is linked to the same grid. Their armor locks up, pinning them in place like statues. They're literally trapped by their own greed. Do-yun steps out from the shadows, his face cold as ice. He doesn't say a word to the thugs. He just walks straight to the siphon. He grips the rusted chain, his aura flickering with violet light. With a sharp tug, the metal snaps like it's made of glass. Huan falls into his arms, barely conscious. The leader tries to crawl toward them, his face a mask of agony. Do-yun just looks down at him, his gaze devoid of pity. He basically tells the guy he's lucky he's leaving him alive. Then he kicks the main power box, causing a total blackout. The whole shack plunges into absolute darkness. Do-yun carries the old man out, moving with practiced efficiency. He's not here for the loot. He's here for his own. The gang members are still stuck, screaming at each other in the dark. They're blaming each other for the equipment failure. It's a beautiful mess. The Iron Tooth gang is finished, and they don't even know why. Do-yun reaches the edge of the slums, his breathing steady. He's pushed his soul core, but he's still standing. He looks back at the chaos, a faint smirk touching his lips. They thought they were the kings of this dump. Now they're just fodder for the next group of scavengers. He disappears into the labyrinthine alleys of the lower city. Huan is safe, But the debt isn't settled yet. The general's men are still patrolling the main sectors. They're looking for a ghost, but they're about to find a nightmare. Do-yun finds a quiet corner to stash his mentor. He checks his wrist, watching the rune pulse with fading intensity. The soul tax is a bitch, but he's got work to do. He needs more info on the rift harvesting operations. The lower slums were just the beginning. He's going to tear this hierarchy down, brick by brick. Think he stops here? Hardly. He's just getting warmed up. Do-yun leans against the rusted alley wall, watching the iron-toothed thugs scramble in the pitch-black shack. They're tripping over their own feet, terrified of the shadows. It's a total disaster for them. The gang leader, that idiot with the metal jaw, is screaming for his men to restart the generators. He doesn't realize he's shouting into a void. Do-yun doesn't waste time watching them flounder. He hoists old man Huan over his shoulder, feeling the weight of a life once discarded. Huan stirs, his breath shallow and ragged. Do-yun slips into the back alley, his boots silent on the slick, oily pavement. He knows the patrol routes better than the guards do. The city's surveillance grid is still hunting for a ghost, but he's already moved 3 sectors away. He ducks behind a stack of discarded shipping crates, listening to the rhythmic thrum of the security drones overhead. They're searching for a massive energy signature that isn't there anymore. Our boy is too smart to leave a trail. He pulls a damp cloth from his pocket and wipes the grime from Juan's forehead. The old man's eyes flutter open, squinting at the dim neon light of the slums. He gasps, recognizing the face that shouldn't be here. Do-yun just presses a finger to his lips. He basically tells him that he's getting him out of this hellhole for good. Juan nods weakly, tears cutting tracks through the soot on his cheeks. They aren't safe yet, though. A heavy, mechanized stomp echoes from the main street. Do-yun freezes, his senses spiking. It's a specialized retrieval unit, the kind that doesn't take prisoners. They're armored in matte black plating, their helmets glowing with lethal red sensors. The leader of the squad points a scanner directly toward the alleyway. He's looking for the source of the recent power surge. Do-yun doesn't panic. He taps into the local sewer lines, feeling the vibration of the water pumps. He's not going to fight them head-on. That would be a waste of energy. He reaches out, his fingers dancing through the air as if playing an invisible piano. He's manipulating the local mana flow, bending it until the sensors start to glitch. The retrieval unit scanners begin to whine, spinning wildly as they pick up a false signal. The squad leader turns his team toward the opposite end of the street, following the digital ghost Do-yun just created. They march past the alley, their heavy boots shaking the ground. Do-yun waits until the last light fades from their helmets before he moves. He doesn't look back at the thugs or the hunters. He's focused on the horizon. He knows where the central storage vault for the rift crystals is hidden. It's deep beneath the administrative district, buried under layers of reinforced concrete and greed. Juan tries to speak, but Do-yun shakes his head. He's got a plan, and it doesn't involve small talk. The slums begin to give way to the industrial zone, a place of towering chimneys and suffocating smog. The air here tastes like burnt copper and ozone. Do-yun spots a maintenance hatch leading to the underground transit tunnels. He pry bars it open, the metal groaning under his grip. They descend into the dark, the sounds of the city fading into a dull roar. He's moving deeper into the belly of the beast. The soul core in his chest pulses, a sharp, rhythmic sting that reminds him of the cost. He ignores the pain. It's a small price to pay for what he's about to do. He reaches the junction where the transit lines intersect with the main power grid. This is the nerve center of the entire district. If he drops the grid here, the city's defenses will go blind for at least 10 minutes. That's all he needs. He pulls a small, jagged shard from his coat, an ancient artifact he scavenged from the rift. It glows with a faint, sickly violet light. He presses it into the junction box, feeling the cold bite of the magic. The machine begins to shudder. Lights flicker across the tunnel, turning from steady white to an erratic, dying yellow. Think he stops here? He's just getting started. He kicks the junction box, sealing the shard inside the circuitry. The tunnel plunges into total, suffocating darkness. Above them, the city screams as its power grid fails. Alarms blare in the distance, a chaotic symphony of panic and failure. Do-yun stands in the center of the dark, a cold smirk on his face. The hunters have no idea what just hit them. He checks his wrist, seeing the rune glowing steady and bright. It's time to move. He navigates the labyrinth of tunnels with ease. Juan leaning heavily against him. They emerge into a restricted zone, right beneath the main administrative tower. Guards are everywhere, but they're distracted by the blackout. Some are fumbling with flashlights, others are shouting over their radios. The confusion is absolute. Do-yun slips past a checkpoint, his movements fluid and precise. He doesn't need to hide, he's practically invisible in the chaos. He reaches the heavy blast door of the storage vault. It's sealed with a complex biometric lock, guarded by 2 automated turrets. He doesn't bother with the lock. He places his hand against the center of the door, channeling his energy into the hinges. The metal begins to groan, then liquefy, the structure failing under the pressure of his void energy. Big mistake, leaving the door vulnerable to someone who knows how to break physics. The turrets swivel, trying to lock onto him, but their power supply is already dead. They click uselessly, their barrels dropping toward the floor. Do-yun kicks the molten steel door, sending it crashing into the room beyond. Inside, rows of glowing rift crystals sit on shelves, waiting to be harvested. They hum with an intoxicating, dangerous power. He grabs a heavy satchel and starts sweeping them off the shelves. He's not just stealing them, he's destabilizing the whole supply. Each crystal he touches reacts to his soul core, turning from blue to a dark, unstable violet. He's poisoning the entire cache. When the guild leaders come to collect their haul, they're going to get a nasty surprise. Juan watches from the doorway, his eyes wide with shock. He's never seen power like this. Do-yun seals the bag, his movements sharp and efficient. He's done here. He turns to leave, but a shadow detaches itself from the corner of the room. It's a high-ranking officer, one of the few who managed to keep his cool during the blackout. He draws a sidearm, his finger tightening on the trigger. He's fast, but he's not fast enough. Do-yun doesn't even look at him. He swings his bag, the weight of the crystals acting like a mace. The officer flies backward, slamming into a shelf and collapsing in a heap. Do-yun doesn't wait to see if he gets up. He's already moving for the exit. The city is waking up to the disaster, and the response teams will be here in seconds. He dashes into the hallway, his footsteps echoing against the sterile white walls. He's a blur of motion, a nightmare come to life. They're going to regret the day they thought he was gone. He reaches the surface just as the emergency lights kick in. The city is a mess of flashing sirens and shouting soldiers. He disappears into the crowd, blending in with the terrified civilians. Juan is safe, the crystals are ruined, and the city's power is a wreck. He's winning this war one move at a time. He looks up at the towering administrative building, his eyes glowing with that dark, violet light. He's not leaving until they're all on their knees. Everything is going exactly to plan. The nightmare is just getting warmed up. The academy grounds are a sea of polished marble and arrogant smiles. Every high-born brat in the capital is here for the annual talent assessment. They're all wearing pristine uniforms and holding artifacts worth more than a city block. Our boy Do-yun Kang stands at the back of the crowd. He's wearing a worn-out coat and looks like he hasn't slept in a decade. He isn't here to impress the judges. He's here to remind these pampered idiots that their shiny toys are nothing but trash. The head judge calls the next participant to the stage. It's a kid from the Vane family, dripping in gold-plated armor. The kid steps up, puffing out his chest like he's the king of the world. He draws his sword, a masterpiece of rift-forged steel. The crowd gasps at the sight of the glowing runic etchings. The judge nods, clearly impressed by the boy's expensive display. Do-yun just rolls his eyes. He steps out of the shadows, his presence barely noticed by the guards. He walks right up to the stage, moving with the casual grace of a predator. The vain kid sneers at him, asking who let the street rat inside. Do-yun doesn't bother with a witty comeback. He just reaches out and taps the kid's sword with a single finger. He doesn't use magic. He doesn't use a flashy skill. He just finds the tiny structural stress point in the blade's core. He channels a flicker of void energy into the steel. The sword shatters like cheap glass. Shards of expensive metal rain down onto the marble floor. The silence is absolute. The vain kid stares at his empty hilt, his face turning pale. The judge stands up, his mouth hanging open in pure shock. Do-yun just walks past them, looking bored. He isn't finished yet. He wanders over to the next display, where a girl is showing off a kinetic shield. It's supposed to be impenetrable. The girl is beaming, confident that nothing can touch her. Do-yun walks right into the shield's radius. He doesn't even break stride. He presses his palm against the shimmering barrier. He feels the mana flow, searching for the crack in the logic. He finds it instantly. He pulses his void shatter, forcing the space inside the barrier to collapse. The shield pops like a soap bubble. The girl stumbles back, tripping over her own feet. She looks at him like he's a demon. Maybe she's right. Do-yun just keeps walking, humming a tune from a life he lived 10,000 years ago. The crowd is starting to panic now. They've never seen their precious artifacts fail like this. The judges are whispering, their eyes darting around in fear. They don't know who he is, but they know he's dangerous. General Hwan-seok Park's guards finally wake up to the threat. They swarm the stage, their weapons drawn and crackling with energy. Do-yun doesn't even look at them. He just taps the floor beneath their feet. The marble tiles crack, sending a shockwave through the entire platform. The guards lose their balance, sliding across the slick floor like toddlers. It's pathetic, honestly. Think they stood a chance? Not even close. Do-yun turns to the head judge, his eyes glowing with that familiar, sickening violet light. He tells the man that his assessment is a waste of everyone's time. He calls their power system a fragile joke held together by lies. The judge is trembling, unable to look him in the eye. Do-yun doesn't wait for an answer. He turns his back on the entire academy. He walks away, leaving the elite in a state of total, humiliating ruin. They're terrified, and they should be. He just exposed the fact that their status is built on nothing. He reaches the exit, stepping out into the cool evening air. He's still anonymous, and the ruling class has no idea who just wrecked their show. That's the beauty of it. He's a ghost in their machine. He checks his wrist, the rune pulsing with a steady, hungry rhythm. He's exhausted, but the job isn't done. He disappears into the city, leaving a trail of broken pride behind him. The hierarchy is crumbling, and he's the one holding the hammer. The nightmare is just getting started. He finds a quiet alleyway to catch his breath. His soul core is burning, a reminder of the price he pays for every strike. He ignores the ache. He's got a bigger game to play. The city thinks it's safe, but it's sitting on a powder keg. He's the spark, and he's ready to burn it all down. He looks up at the sky, watching the fractured rifts pulse in the distance. He knows what's coming, and he's the only one who can stop it. Or maybe he's the one who will finish it. Either way, the world is about to change forever. He starts walking again, his shadow stretching long against the wall. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. He's just a man who lived through hell, and he's bringing it home. The Academy will be talking about this day for years, if they survive that long, that is. He grins to himself, the darkness swallowing him whole. Big mistake, thinking they could hold him back. He's finally home, and he's here to settle the debt. The Academy grounds are still shaking from his little display. The elite students stand frozen like statues in a museum. They're waiting for the next order, but their commander is a puddle of nerves. Do-yun doesn't care. He spots a massive, glowing pillar at the center of the training ring. It's the keystone, the source of all the defensive wards in the building. The instructors call it the heart of the Academy. Our boy thinks it looks like a glorified nightlight. He starts walking toward it, his boots clicking rhythmically against the stone. The guards finally find their courage and point their lances at his throat. They're sweating buckets, and you can see their hands trembling. Do-yun stops just inches from the tip of the nearest blade. He doesn't blink. He doesn't even look at the guy holding the weapon. He just points a single finger at the keystone behind them. The guards look back, confused by his sudden lack of interest in them. Big mistake. He snaps his fingers, and the air around the pillar begins to warp. It's not a blast of raw force this time. It's a surgical strike. He's unraveling the mana weave that holds the entire structure together. The runes on the pillar turn from bright gold to a sickly, flickering gray. The light dies, and the hum of the protective barrier vanishes instantly. The entire building groans under the weight of its own reality. The students look up as the ceiling tiles start to rattle. The judges scream for someone to stop the unauthorized interference. Nobody moves. They're paralyzed by the sheer scale of the power gap. Do-yun brushes a speck of dust off his shoulder like he's bored. He basically tells the head instructor that he's just saving them from a disaster. The instructor is too busy gasping for air to even protest. The kid from the Vane family tries to crawl away, his armor clanking on the floor. Do-yun steps on the back of his cape, pinning him to the spot. He leans down and whispers something that turns the kid's face into a mask of pure terror. The brat starts sobbing, begging for his life. Do-yun just lets out a dry, cold laugh. He never liked bullies, especially the ones with shiny toys and no spine. He turns back to the crowd and waves a hand at the broken keystone. The structure is literally falling apart, piece by piece. Stone slabs start sliding off the wall, crashing onto the pristine floor. The prestige of the academy is crumbling right along with the masonry. Think they can fix this mess? Not a chance. The damage to the mana network is permanent. Do-yun walks through the falling debris, completely untouched. He's a ghost in their machine, and he's hitting the delete key. The head judge tries to stand, but his legs give out beneath him. He's staring at the ruin of his life's work. Do-yun stops at the main exit, framed by the chaos behind him. He looks back at the terrified faces of the future elite. He tells them that their status is just a thin layer of paint on a rotting wall. Then, he just keeps walking. He doesn't look back to see the roof finally buckle. The dust cloud follows him out, but he doesn't cough once. He's already moving on to the next objective. He needs to find the archives, the ones hidden beneath the basement levels. The Academy's secrets are buried there, and he's the only one who can read the seal. He ducks into a side corridor, away from the prying eyes of the remaining guards. The walls here are lined with ancient, forbidden scrolls. He runs his hand along the cold stone, feeling for the hidden mechanism. He finds a loose brick and pushes it deep into the wall. A hidden door grinds open, revealing a staircase that descends into the dark. This is where the real history of this trash world is kept. He descends, his footsteps echoing in the silence of the underground. The air is stale, thick with the smell of old paper and decaying magic. He reaches the bottom and finds a massive circular chamber. In the center sits a pedestal with a glowing obsidian book. It's the chronicle of the first rift jumpers, written in a dead language. He approaches it, his heart pounding for the first time since he woke up. This book contains the coordinates he needs to finish his revenge. He reaches out, his fingers brushing the cold surface of the obsidian. The book pulses, recognizing the void energy in his veins. It opens, revealing pages that shift and rewrite themselves as he stares. The ink is made of condensed shadows. He doesn't read it with his eyes, he absorbs it with his soul. The knowledge floods his mind, sharp and painful. He sees the faces of the people who betrayed him 10 millennia ago. They're still out there, hiding in the shadows of the High Council. He grins, and the shadows in the room seem to dance in response. He's not just here to wreck their little academy anymore. He's here to dismantle the entire foundation of their society. The book slams shut as he pulls his hand away. He's got everything he needs. He turns to leave, but a shadow detaches itself from the corner of the room. It's an assassin, cloaked in high-grade stealth gear. The guy doesn't say a word, just draws a blade coated in paralyzing toxin. Do-yun sighs. He's really tired of these low-level nobodies. The assassin lunges, moving faster than any human should. Do-yun doesn't dodge. He just shifts his weight and lets the blade pass through the space where he was standing. He grabs the guy's wrist and twists it until the bone snaps. The assassin lets out a muffled grunt of agony. Do-yun slams his palm into the guy's chest, sending him flying into the wall. The impact sounds like a wet sack of flour hitting concrete. The guy slumps down, unconscious before he even hits the floor. Do-yun doesn't even bother to check if he's breathing. He just steps over the body and walks back toward the stairs. He's got a city to burn, and he's not wasting time on cleanup. He emerges back into the night air, the city lights shimmering like distant stars. The academy is a wreck, sirens wailing in the distance. He blends into the shadows, his presence completely erased. He's an outlaw now, but he's never felt more powerful. He looks up at the rift-torn sky. The stars are waiting for him to claim them. He starts running, his speed blurring the world around him. He's heading for the central spire, the heart of the government's power. If he wants to tear this world down, he has to start at the top. The guards at the gate won't even see him coming. He's the storm that's been brewing for 10,000 years, and the idiots in charge have no idea what's hitting them. He reaches the perimeter of the inner district. The security grid is active, glowing with a faint blue light. He touches the barrier, and it ripples like water under his hand. He doesn't need to break it this time. He just slips through the cracks in the code. He's a ghost, and the city is his playground. He finds a spot on a rooftop overlooking the spire. He waits, watching the patrols move in their predictable patterns. They think they're safe behind their walls and their laws. He laughs to himself. They have no idea how fragile their reality actually is. He reaches into his cloak and pulls out a small, jagged shard of void crystal. It's the final piece of the puzzle. He's going to use it to destabilize the city's entire power grid. It's going to be a beautiful, silent collapse. He holds the crystal up to the moonlight, watching it bleed purple light. Everything he's worked for is finally falling into place. The vengeance he's been dreaming of is finally within his reach. He's not leaving a single stone unturned. He's not stopping until the last of them knows exactly who he is. The city is quiet, unaware that its end is already here. Do-yun closes his eyes, focusing on the hum of the city beneath him. He's ready. He's coming for them, and there's nowhere left to hide. The night is just beginning, and he's the only one who knows the ending. Big mistake, thinking they could hold him back. He's finally home, and he's here to settle the debt. The air in the chamber turns ice cold. Do-yun's chest suddenly flares with a jagged, white-hot agony. He gasps, clutching his heart as a hairline crack spiderwebs across his core. His vision blurs into a mess of static. The void energy he's been wielding like a toy is now tearing him apart from the inside. He's fading. The edges of his hands start to turn translucent, flickering like a dying light bulb. Big mistake, thinking he could just push this body past its limits. Sirens scream outside, cutting through the silence of the underground. General Hwanseok Park's goons have arrived. They've deployed a mana nullifier field, and the pressure is crushing. His internal energy turns sluggish, like thick sludge trying to flow through a needle. He stumbles, his boots scraping against the damp stone floor. This isn't just a hunt anymore, it's an execution. Do-yun grits his teeth and forces himself to move. He needs to hit the sewers, fast. He lunges toward the narrow maintenance tunnel, his movements jerky and uneven. The walls of the tunnel seem to shift and pulse with the hum of the nullifier. He's not just weak, he's practically a ghost. Every step he takes feels like walking through deep, freezing water. He hears the heavy thud of combat boots echoing behind him. The executioners are closing in. They don't know he's crippled, but they're too smart to take chances. He reaches a junction and stops, leaning against the slick, mossy brickwork. He needs a distraction, and he needs it 5 minutes ago. He spots a rusted pipe leaking pressurized steam overhead. With a flick of his wrist, he sends a tiny, microscopic fracture into the valve. The pipe groans. The metal screams as the pressure builds beyond its breaking point. He waits, holding his breath as the footsteps get louder. 3 armored figures round the corner, weapons raised and glowing with cold blue light. They scan the darkness, their visors scanning for mana signatures. Do-yun is right there, but he's masking his presence by collapsing his own aura. He's hiding in the blind spot of their tech. The pipe explodes. A massive plume of scalding white steam erupts into the narrow tunnel. The guards shout, blinded and panicked as the heat hits their sensitive sensors. He doesn't wait for them to recover. He slides past them, silent as a shadow, and ducks into a drainage pipe. He's running on fumes, his physical form flickering in and out of reality. He hits the sewer water, the stench hitting him like a physical blow. He doesn't care. He just needs to disappear. Think he's going to let a little thing like total existence failure stop him? He's got a debt to settle, even if he has to crawl to the finish line. The nullifier field follows him, a heavy blanket of silence that makes his skin crawl. He finds a recessed crawl space behind a rusted grate and wedges himself inside. His heart beats a frantic, uneven rhythm against his ribs. He looks down at his arm. It's almost entirely invisible. He's burning his own life to stay here. The cost is steep, but the alternative is letting Park win. He closes his eyes and focuses on the steady drip of water from the ceiling. Above him, he hears the executioners arguing. They're frustrated, shouting about how he just vanished into thin air. They think he's a master of stealth, a ghost in the machine. They have no idea he's just a broken man trying to hold his soul together. He waits for hours, his consciousness dipping in and out of the void. He can feel the city above him, the hum of the power grid he's going to tear down. He's the parasite they're hunting, but he's the one holding the knife. The guards finally move on, their heavy treads fading into the distance. He's safe for the moment, but he's running out of time. He drags his fading body out of the grate. His legs feel like they're made of lead and mist. He's got to find a way to stabilize his core, or he's going to phase out for good. He keeps moving, deeper into the bowels of the city. He's an outlaw now, marked and dying. But guess what? He's never felt more alive than when he's staring into the abyss. He reaches a hidden exit that leads to the merchant slums. He slips out into the rain, the cold droplets passing straight through his shoulder. He's a mess, a walking contradiction of power and fragility. He's the scavenger who came back from the end of time, and he's not done yet. He pulls his hood up, blending into the dark, rain-slicked alleyway. The city is waiting for the storm to break. He's the storm. He just needs to remember how to breathe without shattering. He disappears into the gloom, leaving the frustrated hunters to chase shadows. The game has only just begun. The rain outside is relentless, but the sewer air is even worse. Do-yun leans against a slimy concrete wall, his breath coming in ragged, freezing gasps. His hand is still flickering, turning into a patch of static every few seconds. The mana nullifier field is absolute garbage. It feels like someone is scrubbing his soul with sandpaper. He needs a catalyst to patch the leak in his core, or he's going to dissolve into nothing. He spots a discarded scrap of conductive copper wire near a pile of sludge. Our boy grabs it, his movements stiff and painful. He needs to ground his energy before his heart gives out. He wraps the wire around his wrist, forcing the chaotic void energy to flow through the metal instead of his own veins. The sparks fly, stinging his skin like 1,000 needles. It's not a fix, but it's a bandage for a guy who's currently leaking reality. He forces himself to stand. The sewer tunnel stretches out ahead, a dark, stinking throat leading deeper into the city's bowels. He isn't going to let a bunch of suits in shiny armor put him in the ground. He starts moving, his boots splashing through the filth. He's not running, he's hunting. Suddenly, a red light flickers on a wall sensor up ahead. The defense force hasn't given up yet. They've deployed a drone, a hovering metallic spider with a thermal eye. It scans the tunnel, its red laser cutting through the gloom. Do-young freezes. If that thing tags him, the whole squad will be on him in seconds. He's trapped in the open. The drone rotates, its internal gears whirring with a high-pitched whine. Bad news, right? He doesn't have the mana to blast it out of the air. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small, jagged shard of rift glass he swiped from the academy. He doesn't throw it at the drone. He tosses it into the swirling sewer water just below the machine. The shard reacts with the stagnant waste, triggering an instant, violent chemical reaction. A massive plume of thick, oily smoke erupts, blinding the drone's sensors. The drone chirps, confused by the sudden spike in thermal noise. It starts firing wildly, its lasers scorching the walls. Do-yun doesn't waste a second. He lunges forward, grabbing the drone's leg as it dips low. He doesn't smash it, he hacks it. With a quick twist of his fingers, he forces the drone's internal navigation to sync with his own dying core. The machine goes rigid. He points it back toward the way he came. The drone accelerates, screaming off into the distance like a kamikaze pilot. A second later, a massive explosion rocks the tunnel behind him. The executioners are going to have a rough time with that one. He grins, though it looks more like a grimace of pure pain. He's still a genius, even when he's falling apart. He staggers onward, his shadow stretching long and distorted against the tunnel walls. He needs to reach the old sector before the sun comes up. That's where the real power is hidden. He finds a rusted ladder leading up to a street-level manhole cover. He climbs, his muscles screaming in protest. Every rung feels like it's made of white-hot iron. He reaches the top and pushes the heavy iron cover just an inch. The city lights spill in, blinding and beautiful. He's back in the belly of the beast. He slips out into the alley, his hood pulled low over his eyes. The streets are crawling with patrols. The city is on high alert, all because of one guy who refused to stay dead. He spots a group of guards questioning a street merchant. They're looking for a kid with a flickering aura. Do-yun doesn't panic. He just walks right past them, his presence so suppressed he's practically invisible to their tech. He's not a hero, he's a ghost in the machine. One of the guards glances his way, eyes narrowing under his helmet. Do-yun doesn't flinch. He keeps his pace steady, a casual stroll through the end of the world. The guard turns back to the merchant, dismissing him as just another slum rat. Big mistake. He ducks into a narrow side street, away from the prying eyes of the surveillance grid. He's made it this far, but his core is still screaming. He needs a place to hide and a way to recharge. He stops in front of a boarded-up warehouse. The sign says it's a condemned storage facility, but he knows better. This was a secret cache for the old Rift researchers. He touches the rusted lock. He doesn't pick it. He whispers a command into the metal, tricking the ancient security system into thinking he's the owner. The lock clicks, heavy and final. He slides inside, the darkness welcoming him like an old friend. He collapses onto a pile of crates, his body finally failing him. The static on his hands is spreading to his chest now. He's fading fast. He looks up at the ceiling, watching the dust motes dance in the sliver of moonlight. He's the only one who knows what's really coming for this city. The Rift Lords aren't just coming back. They're already here, hiding in the shadows of the power grid. He closes his eyes, trying to stabilize his heartbeat. He's a wreck, he's dying, and he's completely alone. But as he drifts into a forced, shallow sleep, he can't help but smirk. He's going to burn this whole hierarchy to the ground, even if he has to do it one piece at a time. The city sleeps, oblivious to the fact that its executioner is resting just a few blocks away. He's not done, not by a long shot. He wakes up hours later to the sound of metal scraping against metal. Someone is outside the door. He's not alone anymore. He shifts his weight, preparing to move, but his limbs feel like lead. The door groans, slowly swinging inward on rusted hinges. A figure stands in the doorway, framed by the harsh glare of the streetlights. It's not an executioner. It's a girl, barely older than him, clutching a rusted wrench like a sword. She stares at him, her eyes wide with fear and curiosity. He doesn't say a word. He just watches her, his hand twitching near his belt. She's shaking, but she doesn't run. She asks if he's the one who caused the explosion in the sewers. He doesn't answer. He just stares her down, his aura flickering back to life for a split second. The air in the room turns cold, heavy with the weight of the void. She gasps, dropping the wrench. It clangs against the concrete, the sound echoing like a gunshot. He's dangerous, and she knows it. She stammers, asking if he's a rift walker. He finally speaks, his voice a gravelly rasp. He tells her to mind her own business and get lost before she gets herself killed. She doesn't move. She says she's been waiting for someone like him for years. The city is dying, and she's tired of watching it happen from the sidelines. He laughs, a dry, humorless sound. He tells her that he's not a savior. He's just a man with a grudge and a clock that's ticking down to zero. She steps closer, undeterred. She says that's exactly what the city needs. He looks at her, really looks at her for the first time. She's got the look of a scavenger, someone who's lived in the dirt and learned how to survive. He wonders if she's worth the trouble. He decides to test her. He holds out his hand, the static dancing between his fingers. He tells her to take it, but warns her that it might just burn her soul to ash. She doesn't hesitate. She reaches out, her skin brushing against his. The energy surges, a violent shock that rocks the entire room. She screams, but she doesn't pull away. She holds on, her eyes glowing with a faint reflected light. He's surprised. She's not just a scavenger. She's a conduit. She's the key he's been looking for. He pulls his hand back, his heart pounding in his chest. The static on his skin starts to settle, the energy grounding itself through her. He's not fading anymore. He's stabilizing. He looks at her, a new, cold determination in his eyes. He asks her name. She says it's Ilara. He tells her that if she wants to play in the big leagues, she's going to have to learn how to kill. She doesn't flinch. She says she's ready. He stands up, his strength returning in a rush of cold, dark power. They're a pair of ghosts in a city of fools, and they're about to start a fire that no one can put out. He heads for the door, his shadow looming large against the warehouse wall. Ilara follows him, her footsteps silent on the concrete. The city is waiting for the storm, and they are the lightning. He walks out into the night, the cold rain washing away the last of the sewer filth. He's ready. The game is changing, and this time, he's holding all the cards. He glances at Ilara, a smirk playing on his lips. He tells her to keep up, because they're going to be moving fast. She nods, her grip tightening on her wrench. They vanish into the darkness, leaving the warehouse behind. The real hunt starts now. The executioners think they're hunting a lone wolf. They have no idea they're about to run into a pack. He feels the power humming in his veins, steady and strong. He's not a victim of the rift anymore. He's the master of it. He leads her toward the central tower, the heart of the city's power grid. That's where the high-ranking officials are hiding. That's where he's going to make his mark. Every step takes them closer to the center of the trap. He's not worried. He's been dead once. He's not afraid of a little more dying. He stops at an alleyway, looking up at the towering spires of the capital. The city lights blink in a rhythmic pattern, the heartbeat of the grid. He can see the flow of energy, the invisible webs of mana that keep this place running. He's going to tear those webs apart. Ilara watches him, her eyes wide as she follows his gaze. She can see it too, now that she's touched his power. She's seeing the world for what it really is. He's not just teaching her to fight, he's teaching her to see. They move on, slipping through the shadows like they're part of the architecture. The city is vast, but it's small enough for someone who knows where to look. He's got a plan, and it's going to be glorious. The executioners are still scouring the slums, looking for a ghost. They're looking in the wrong place. He's already moved on to the next phase. He's not just a scavenger anymore. He's the architect of their downfall. He stops in front of a heavy, reinforced gate. This is the entrance to the inner district. It's guarded by a squad of elite soldiers in power armor. They're heavily armed, their weapons glowing with lethal intent. He looks at Ilara. He asks if she's ready to make a scene. She smiles, a sharp, dangerous look that matches his own. He reaches out, his hands glowing with that familiar, deadly static. This isn't about stealth anymore. This is about sending a message. He steps out into the light, his presence tearing through the night like a blade. The guards turn, their weapons snapping to target. He doesn't wait for them to fire. He lunges, his speed unnatural, his power raw and unchecked. The gate shatters before he even touches it. The guards are thrown back, their armor buckling under the pressure of his aura. He's a whirlwind of destruction, a force of nature in a suit of rags. Ilara is right behind him, her wrench glowing with the energy he's pushed into it. They're a team now, and the city is about to find out exactly what happens when you cross the wrong guy. He doesn't stop, he doesn't pause, he doesn't hesitate. He's the storm. And the storm is just getting started. The sewer air reeks of rot and wet iron. Our boy Du-yun wipes a trail of viscous black ichor from his chin. His body is fading. The edges of his vision flicker like a dying light bulb. He's not just hurt. He's literally deleting himself from existence. Ilara walks a few paces behind, her eyes scanning the shadows. She's holding a rusted pipe, ready to crack a skull. They stop before a heavy steel door marked with a jagged red sigil. This is the den of the Rat King. He's the city's most dangerous information broker. Du-yun kicks the door open without a second thought. The hinges scream as they hit the concrete floor. Inside, the room is packed with stolen tech and glowing mana jars. A man sits behind a desk made of scrap metal. He's got eyes like a snake and a smile that doesn't reach them. The Rat King looks up, his gaze narrowing at their arrival. He sneers, asking if the trash has finally decided to take itself out. Du-yun doesn't bother with small talk. He drops a map onto the desk. It's a schematic for a high-value rift hidden near the industrial zone. The Rat King's eyes widen as he traces the lines. This rift is untouched. It's a goldmine of raw mana. The broker chuckles, wondering what the price is for such a gift. Du-yun leans in, his hand glowing with a faint, dangerous static. He demands the forbidden medicinal herbs kept in the vault, the ones that can knit a shattered soul back together. The broker hesitates, his fingers drumming on the metal desk. He knows those herbs are worth more than a dozen lives. Suddenly, the sidewall explodes inward. Dust clouds fill the air as armored mercenaries storm the room. They're the Ironhawks, the city's greediest mercenary faction. The leader points a rifle at Du-yun's head. He tells the broker to hand over the map and his life. Du-yun just stands there, a cold smirk on his face. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He reaches for the room's foundation. He presses his palm against the floor, channeling his void shatter. The ground beneath the mercenaries starts to groan. Cracks spiderweb across the concrete, glowing with a sickly violet hue. The mercenaries stumble as the floor tilts at an impossible angle. They start firing wildly, but the bullets just vanish into the rifts. Du-yun turns to the Rat King, his voice low and steady. He offers a deal, Side with him, and he'll collapse the floor into the sublevel. The Iron Hawks will be buried in the dark forever. The broker stares at the chaos, then at the map. He makes his choice. He slams a button on his desk, triggering a hidden trap. The floor gives way with a deafening roar. The mercenaries plummet into the abyss, screaming as they go. The Rat King tosses a small velvet bag to our boy. He tells him to get lost before he changes his mind. Do-yun catches the bag, feeling the hum of the herbs inside. He's not fading anymore. The static on his skin begins to fade into a dull, manageable ache. He looks at Alara, nodding toward the exit. They've got what they came for. The city is still hunting him, but he's got the upper hand now. He walks past the broker, not even looking back. The Rat King watches them go, his face pale with terror. He knows he just helped a monster. Outside, the rain starts to fall again. Do-yun breathes in the cold air, feeling his core stabilize. He's still a ghost, but he's a ghost with teeth. He tells Alara that the real work begins tomorrow. She looks at him, her grip tightening on her gear. They disappear into the rain, leaving the chaos behind them. The Iron Hawks are done. The broker is scared stiff. And our boy? He's just getting started. The Rat King stares at the velvet bag, his fingers trembling like a leaf in a gale. He knows he just handed over the only thing keeping the city's elite from hunting him down. Do-yun doesn't care. He's got the herbs. His soul core, that jagged, flickering mess inside his chest, finally stops its frantic, rhythmic pulsing. The static on his skin dies down. No more phantom itching. No more fading into the background like a cheap magic trick. Do-yun turns his back on the broker, leaving the man to sit in the wreckage of his own office. Alara follows, her boots crunching on the shattered glass and broken scrap metal. She's still clutching that pipe, knuckles white. She looks at Do-yun like he's a walking bomb. Maybe she's right. They step out of the den and into the slick, neon-drenched alleyway. The rain is turning into a deluge. It hits the pavement with a heavy, rhythmic thud. Do-yun stops under a flickering street lamp. He opens the bag. Inside, the herbs glow with a soft, bioluminescent blue light. They smell like ozone and old medicine. He doesn't hesitate. He tosses a handful into his mouth and swallows. The effect is instant. A cold shiver runs down his spine, followed by a rush of pure, concentrated energy. His core hums. It feels solid again, like a mountain, not a cracked glass marble. He lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Alara watches him, her voice barely audible over the rain. She asks if he's finally going to tell her what the plan is. Do-yun looks at her, his eyes cold and sharp. He tells her the plan is simple. They're going to burn the system down, from the bottom up. She doesn't flinch. She just nods, a grim smile touching her lips. Big mistake. Trusting a guy like him? Maybe. But she's tired of eating scraps in the dark. Do-yun starts walking, his pace steady and purposeful. They head toward the industrial sector, where the massive government-run rift towers loom over the skyline. Those towers are the city's heart. They pump mana into the grid and keep the elite fat and happy. Do-yun knows exactly how to crack them open. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small metallic shard. It's a remnant from his past life, a piece of a master key. He's been saving this for the right moment. The streets are crawling with patrols. The Capitol Defense Force is out in full strength, their armor gleaming under the searchlights. They're looking for him. They just don't know he's already inside their perimeter. Do-yun ducks into a maintenance tunnel, pulling Alara along. The tunnel is cramped and reeks of grease. He presses his hand against the wall, tracing a sequence of glowing runes. The concrete shifts. A hidden passage opens, leading deep into the bowels of the power station. They slide inside, the heavy door sealing shut behind them. It's quiet here, too quiet. The air is thick with the hum of high-voltage mana. Do-yun's core reacts to the pressure. It flares, a brilliant violet light bleeding through his clothes. He's a beacon in the dark. He doesn't try to hide it. He walks straight toward the main conduit. A group of technicians looks up, their mouths dropping open. They scramble for their alarms, but Do-yun is faster. He snaps his fingers. A shockwave of raw energy ripples through the room. The consoles explode in a shower of sparks. The lights flicker and die. The technicians dive for cover, screaming as the room descends into chaos. Do-yun doesn't kill them. He doesn't have to. He's here for the core. He reaches the central pillar, a massive cylinder of pulsing blue light. This is the power source for the entire district. He plunges his hand into the light. His skin sizzles. The pain is immense, but he grins. He feeds his own energy into the conduit, overriding the system's locks. The pillar turns violent. The blue light shifts to a deep, angry crimson. The entire building begins to shake. Alarms start blaring, a shrill, piercing sound that cuts through the night. Do-yun pulls his hand back. He's done. He turns to Alara and tells her to run. She doesn't need to be told twice. They sprint back through the tunnels, the floor beneath them vibrating with the impending collapse. Behind them, the power station groans. The structural supports begin to snap. The roof caves in, sending a cascade of debris onto the street outside. The explosion is massive. A pillar of fire shoots into the sky, lighting up the city for miles. Do-yun watches from a safe distance, his face illuminated by the glow. The grid is down. The surveillance systems are blind. The city is paralyzed. And our boy? He looks at his hand. It's burned, but the skin is already knitting itself back together. The herbs were worth every bit of risk. He's stronger than he was an hour ago. He's stronger than he was a lifetime ago. Alara catches her breath, looking at the burning station. She asks if they're safe now. Do-yun laughs, a dry, humorless sound. Safe is a word for people who aren't planning a revolution. He starts walking again, disappearing into the shadows of the alley. The city is waking up. Sirens scream in the distance. The elite are panicking. They're looking for an enemy they can't see. They're looking for a ghost. But Do-yun isn't a ghost anymore. He's the storm, and the storm is just getting warmed up. He checks his pockets, confirming the last few shards are still there. He has more towers, more secrets to tear apart. He looks at Alara. He tells her to get ready. The night is young, and the city has a lot of debts to pay. They vanish into the darkness, leaving the burning wreckage behind them. The Rat King is probably wetting himself right about now. Good. That's exactly the message he wanted to send. The hierarchy is crumbling, the foundation is cracked, and the man who broke it is already moving to the next objective. Think they can stop him? Think again. Do-yun is a force of nature, and nature doesn't apologize. He moves with a predator's grace, cutting through the back streets like a hot knife through butter. Every shadow is his ally. Every alley is his path. He doesn't look back. The past is a graveyard, and he's done digging. He's focused on the future. And the future looks like a battlefield. He reaches the edge of the industrial sector. Ahead of him lies the central plaza, where the city's ruling council meets. It's guarded by the elite guard, the best of the best. They think they're impenetrable. They think their artifacts make them gods. Do-yun knows better. He's seen gods fall before. He's seen worlds burn. And he's the one who held the match. He stops at the plaza entrance, watching the guards pace the perimeter. They're nervous. They've heard about the power station. They're waiting for an attack. Do-yun smiles. He's not going to attack. Not yet. He's going to wait. He's going to let them sweat. He's going to let the fear sink in. Then, he's going to strike. He turns to Alara. He tells her to find a vantage point and wait for his signal. She nods, slipping into the shadows without a sound. Do-yun is alone now, just him and the target. He reaches into his core, feeling the power swirl and coil. It's ready. He's ready. He steps out into the light, his presence tearing through the night like a blade. The guards turn, their weapons snapping to target. He doesn't wait for them to fire. He lunges, his speed unnatural, his power raw and unchecked. The gate shatters before he even touches it. The guards are thrown back, their armor buckling under the pressure of his aura. He's a whirlwind of destruction, a force of nature in a suit of rags. He's a ghost with teeth, and he's ready to bite. He moves through the guards like they're made of paper. He doesn't use weapons. He uses the environment. He uses the weight of his own existence. He slams a fist into the ground, and the plaza floor ripples. The guards lose their footing, stumbling as the stone beneath them turns to liquid. They fire, but their shots go wide, hitting the empty air. Do-yun is already gone. He's a blur of motion, a shadow in the storm. He appears behind the lead guard, his hand glowing with that signature violet light. He taps the guard's chest plate. The metal disintegrates. The guard falls, his armor clattering to the ground in a pile of useless scrap. Do-yun doesn't stop. He doesn't pause. He doesn't hesitate. He's the storm, and the storm is just getting started. He walks through the plaza, the guards parting before him like the Red Sea. They're terrified. They've never seen anything like him. They've never seen a man who can delete reality with a touch. He reaches the council hall, the massive double doors standing as a final barrier. He doesn't bother with the lock. He just walks through them, the wood splintering as his aura passes through. Inside, the council members are huddled around a table, their faces pale with fear. They know who he is. They've seen the reports. They've seen the damage. Do-yun stands in the center of the room, his eyes scanning the faces of the people who rule this city. He doesn't say a word. He just smiles. A cold, sharp, dangerous smile. The council members shrink back, their voices trembling as they ask what he wants. Do-yun doesn't answer. He just reaches for the room's foundation. He presses his palm against the floor. The room groans. The ceiling starts to crack. The power of the void is back, and it's hungrier than ever. The council members scream. The building begins to tilt. This is the end of the line for them. And Do-yun is the one holding the leash. He doesn't just collapse the building. He collapses their world. He turns to the lead councilman, his voice a low, steady growl. He tells them that the debt is due, and they're all going to pay. The building shudders one last time, the foundations giving way to the pressure. The council members scramble for the exit, but it's too late. The floor is already gone. Do-yun watches them fall, his face a mask of cold indifference. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. He's an inevitability. He turns and walks out of the crumbling hall, his work here finished. Ilara is waiting outside, her eyes wide with shock. She's never seen anything like this. She's never seen power on this scale. Do-yun doesn't look back. He's already moving on. There's more to be done, more towers to break, more systems to burn. The city is in chaos, and he's the one holding the match. He's a ghost with teeth, and he's just getting started. The night is long and the city is burning. Do-yun walks into the rain, his silhouette fading into the darkness. He's still a ghost, but he's a ghost who owns the night. And the city? The city is finally going to learn what happens when you cross the wrong guy. Everything is changing. The old order is dead, and the new order is standing right in front of them, waiting for the smoke to clear. Do-yun doesn't stop. He doesn't look back. He's the storm. And the storm is just beginning to roar. The Iron Tower looms over the city like a jagged black tooth. It's the heart of the beast, where General Hwan Seok Park pulls the strings. Do-yun adjusts his stolen guard uniform, pulling the brim of his helmet low. He doesn't look like a legendary Voidwalker anymore. He's just another faceless grunt in the Capital Defense Force. The checkpoint guard eyes him with suspicion. Do-yun keeps his head down, clutching a crate of maintenance gear. He basically tells the guy he's on a rush order for the upper levels. The guard grunts, waving him through with a bored flick of his hand. Big mistake. Do-yun slips into the lower corridors of the tower. The air here tastes like ozone and rotting magic. He avoids the main elevator, choosing a service shaft instead. His soul core pulses, a dull, aching throb against his ribs. He has to stay quiet, stay hidden, and keep his power locked tight. One wrong move, and the whole tower comes down on his head. He climbs the maintenance ladder, his movements fluid and silent. He's not a scavenger anymore. He's a ghost in their machine. He reaches a ventilation grate overlooking the central sanctum. Below him, the room is bathed in an eerie, pulsing blue light. Large glass vats line the walls, filled with swirling, viscous liquid. General Hwan Seok Park stands in the center, arms crossed. He's watching a display board that tracks rift activity across the sector. A technician approaches, trembling as he hands over a report. The general reads it, then sneers, tossing the tablet aside. He tells the man that the harvest isn't fast enough. Do-yun leans closer, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the vats. That's not just mana in there. It's condensed essence, ripped straight from the rifts. The general isn't closing the rifts to save humanity. He's keeping them open to farm them like a fucking harvest field. The true cause of the world's suffering is standing right there. Do-yun feels the rage bubbling up, cold and sharp. He wants to shatter the whole room into dust, but he waits. He watches the general activate a control sequence on the console. A massive rift in the containment field flickers to life. Eldritch energy floods the room, channeled directly into the vats. The general smiles, a look of pure, unadulterated greed on his face. He thinks he's a god, playing with the lives of everyone below. Do-yun quietly pulls a small, jagged crystal from his pocket. It's a resonance anchor, a relic from his time in the void. If he places this on the main node, he can sabotage the harvest, but he needs to get closer to the core of the machine. He spots an opening in the vent, leading directly behind the command dais. He slides through, his boots making zero sound on the metal grate. He drops down into the shadows of the command center. He's 10 feet away from the general. One breath, one heartbeat, and he's exposed. He creeps toward the main node, his hand hovering over the console. The general turns, his brow furrowing as if he senses a shift in the air. Do-yun freezes, pressing himself into the dark corner. The general walks past him, his heavy boots clicking on the floor. He stops at the console, tapping a rhythm into the keys. He's checking the intake levels. Do-yun watches the sequence, memorizing the access codes. He needs this info if he's going to bring this tower down. The general grumbles about the instability of the latest rift. He mentions that the Void Survivor is still a threat to his operation. He laughs, saying that a pathetic scavenger can't touch him. Do-yun barely suppresses a smirk. He's right there, and the guy has no clue. The general walks back to the vats to inspect the seals. Do-yun lunges forward, his movements a blur of practiced precision. He slaps the resonance anchor onto the main power node. The console sparks, the lights flickering violently for a split second. He's back in the shadows before the general even spins around. The general shouts at his technicians, demanding to know what happened. The room descends into chaos as the alarm klaxons start to wail. Do-yun slips back into the maintenance shaft, heart hammering. He's got the data. He's got the sabotage in place. He's done here. He climbs down, moving faster than he did on the way up. He hits the lower floors and ditches the uniform in a trash chute. He's back in his rags, a nobody in a city of fools. He steps out into the rain, the cool air hitting his face. The iron tower begins to hum, a deep, ominous sound vibrating in the ground. The harvest is about to go very, very wrong. Think he stops there? He walks into the dark, leaving the general to his collapsing empire. The city is a powder keg, and he just lit the fuse. And just like that, the game changes. He's not a scavenger. He's the architect of their ruin. The night is young, and the tower is about to burn. He keeps walking, his silhouette fading into the heavy gray rain. The general has no idea what's coming, neither does the city. But they're all going to learn the price of their greed. Do-yun disappears into the slums, a shadow among shadows. He's a ghost with teeth, and he's ready for the next move. Everything is falling into place. The void is calling, and he's the one who answers. The alarm klaxons scream like a dying banshee. Red strobes bathe the hallway in a sickening rhythmic pulse. General Park slams his fist against the console, his face a map of pure, unadulterated panic. He barks orders at his men, his voice trembling with a hint of cowardice. He's not a god anymore. He's just a cornered rat. Our boy, meanwhile, is already 3 levels down, moving through the shadows like he owns the place. He's got the stolen data chip tucked into his vest, a tiny piece of plastic that's going to burn this whole operation to the ground. Big mistake, thinking he could keep that rift open forever. Do-yun spots a heavy blast door at the end of the corridor. It's the only way out of the inner sanctum. 2 guards stand by the terminal, their rifles raised, scanning the darkness with twitchy fingers. They're the idiot squad, barely trained and clearly terrified of the sirens. Do-yun doesn't hesitate. He drops a small, pressurized gas pellet at their feet. A thick gray fog erupts, swallowing the hallway in an instant. He lunges forward, a blur of motion in the dim light. He slams his elbow into the first guard's temple, dropping him like a sack of wet flour. The second guard spins around, his rifle barrel clattering against the wall. Do-yun catches the barrel with his bare hand, twists, and delivers a sharp kick to the man's knee. The guard howls, collapsing into a heap of clanking armor. Do-yun doesn't waste a second on them. He taps the access code into the terminal, his fingers dancing across the keys. The heavy door groans, sliding open just enough for him to slip through. He's inside the lower ventilation shaft now, the air thick with the smell of ozone and burnt copper. He can hear the guards shouting behind him, their heavy boots echoing on the steel flooring. They're closing in, but he's already ghosting through the dark. He reaches a junction, a narrow crawl space that leads to the outer perimeter. He pauses, glancing back at the glowing red lights of the sanctum. The resonance anchor he planted is doing its job. The entire tower is vibrating, a low hum that rattles his teeth. Think the general realizes he's already lost. He's probably scrambling to salvage his precious essence vats, completely blind to the fact that his legacy is turning into scrap metal. Do-yun smirks, his eyes glinting in the dark. He's played the long game, and he's winning. He squeezes through the narrow opening, his rags snagging on a jagged bolt. He ignores the tier, pulling himself forward until he hits the outer maintenance hatch. He kicks the latch, and the door swings open to reveal the rain-slicked city skyline. The air is cold, biting at his skin, but it feels like freedom. He drops down into a pile of refuse, landing with a soft thud. He's out. He's safe. And he's just getting started. He looks up at the iron tower, watching as the top floors begin to flicker and dim. The power grid is failing, the sabotage cascading through the building's circuits. It's a beautiful sight. A squad of elite troopers rounds the corner, their visors glowing with thermal vision. They spot him, their weapons locking onto his silhouette. They shout a warning, telling him to freeze or face immediate liquidation. Do-yun doesn't even flinch. He turns, his face a cold mask of indifference. He gestures to the tower behind him, a mocking salute to the chaos he's unleashed. He shifts his weight, ready to bolt into the labyrinthine alleys of the slums. The lead trooper fires, a bolt of plasma searing the air where Do-yun's head was a second ago. He's already gone, vaulting over a rusted dumpster and disappearing into the shadows. He doesn't need his power for this. He knows these streets better than his own name. The guards chase him, but they're just running into a trap of their own making. He leads them deeper into the industrial district, where the pipes are old and the structures are barely holding together. He skids around a corner, finding the hidden lever he marked earlier. He yanks it down, and a massive stack of steel beams crashes down, blocking the path entirely. The guards slam into the barricade, cursing and scrambling over the debris. Do-yun is already gone, vanishing into the sewers below. He's a ghost in their machine, and he's tearing it apart piece by piece. He finds his stash, a small cache hidden beneath a rotted floorboard. He pulls out a dry set of clothes and a map of the city's underground tunnels. He's got a date with the underground resistance, and they're going to love what he has to say. The general's greed has left a void, and Do-yun is the one filling it with fire. He changes quickly, his movements sharp and efficient. He's not the scavenger they kicked around anymore. He's the one holding the leash. He steps out of the hideout, the rain washing away the grime of the tower. He looks back one last time at the skyline, the lights of the iron tower finally going dark. The city is silent, holding its breath for what comes next. Guess what happens when the people realize their hero is actually a parasite? The whole city is going to explode. Do-yun turns his back on the tower and starts walking. He's got a plan, he's got the evidence, and he's got nothing left to lose. The general thinks he's safe in his ivory tower, but he's just a man sitting on a ticking bomb. Do-yun smiles, a dark, dangerous look that would make anyone else run for cover. He's ready for the next move. He's ready to finish this. The rain continues to fall, heavy and relentless, masking his trail as he fades into the night. He's a shadow, a whisper of vengeance in a world that forgot how to fight back. He finds the secret entrance to the resistance base, a rusted hatch beneath a pile of old shipping crates. He knocks a specific pattern, waiting for the signal. The hatch creaks open, revealing a tense, bearded man with a scarred face. The man stares at him, his eyes wide with recognition. He asks if it's really him, the one who broke the iron tower. Do-yun just nods, tossing the data chip onto the table. The man looks at it, then back at Do-yun, his expression shifting from shock to pure, unadulterated hope. They've been waiting for this for years. They've been dying in the mud while the general feasted on their life force. Do-yun tells him that the time for hiding is over. He lays out the plan, showing them exactly where the weak points are. The men in the room gather around, their faces hardening as they see the truth of their suffering. It's not just a mission anymore. It's a revolution, and Do-yun is the one leading the charge. The man asks what they need to do first. Do-yun points to the map, his finger tracing a line straight to the heart of the sector's power distribution. He says they need to take the grid offline for good. He explains that once the power is gone, the vats will fail. The essence will be released, and the people will finally have a chance to fight back. It's risky, but it's the only way to break the general's grip on the city. The men nod, their eyes burning with a new, dangerous resolve. They've been waiting for a reason to stand up, and now they have it. Do-yun watches them, feeling the weight of the moment. He's not alone anymore. He's the architect of their ruin, and he's building something better from the ashes. The room is silent, save for the hum of the generator in the background. Everything is falling into place. The void is calling, and he's ready to answer. He gathers his gear, checking his blade and the remaining crystals in his pouch. He's ready to strike. He's ready to reclaim what was stolen. He steps out into the base, the air thick with anticipation. They're moving out tonight. The general won't know what hit him until it's already over. And just like that, the game changes. He's not a scavenger. He's the one writing the ending. The night is young, and the tower is going to burn. He keeps moving, his silhouette disappearing into the dark tunnels. The general has no idea what's coming. Neither does the city. But they're all going to learn the price of their greed. Do-yun disappears into the depths, a shadow among shadows. He's a ghost with teeth, and he's ready for the next move. He reaches the edge of the industrial sector, peering out from behind a stack of crates. The base is heavily guarded, but he knows the pattern. He's watched them for weeks, and he knows exactly where the gaps are. He signals to the team, and they move out in sync. They're fast, silent, and lethal. They're the storm before the fire. Do-yun leads them to the main junction, his eyes fixed on the target. He's close. He's ready. He's going to tear it all down. The general is still in his office, completely unaware that his world is about to collapse. He's looking at his reports, thinking he's won. He's wrong. Do-yun is coming for him, and there's nowhere left to hide. The final act is starting, and it's going to be brutal. Do-yun checks his watch. Time's up. He signals the team to initiate the sequence. The lights across the sector begin to flicker. The hum of the machines reaches a fever pitch. The harvest is over. It's time to pay the bill. Do-yun draws his blade, the steel catching the dim light. He's ready. He's always been ready. The tower starts to tremble, the ground beneath them shaking as the power dies. This is the moment everything changes. The moment the general realizes he's nothing but a fraud. Do-yun steps into the light, his presence commanding and cold. He's not a scavenger. He's the end of the line. The guards see him, but it's too late. He's already moving. He's already won. The general isn't just sitting on his throne. He's hunting. He's deployed his personal favorite, a shadow-clad S-rank assassin named Vane. Vane is fast, cold, and doesn't leave a single witness behind. Do-yun knows he's being tracked through the narrow, rain-slicked alleyways. He's still bruised from the Iron Tower, and his mana is running on fumes. Every step feels like his soul core is grinding against broken glass. Suddenly, a blade whistles through the air, missing his neck by an inch. Vane drops from the rafters, his eyes glowing with a toxic purple light. He's an S-rank, and he's clearly not here for a polite conversation. Do-yun doesn't panic, but he knows his usual tricks won't work here. His void shatter is too volatile, and he can't risk burning his remaining life force. He's forced to do the unthinkable. He sheds his gear to lose the weight. He tosses his heavy coat, his remaining crystals, and his blade into the mud. Vane laughs, thinking our boy has finally lost his mind. But Do-yun isn't surrendering. He's just stripping for a brawl. He starts running, not away, but toward the old, abandoned sector of the city. This is the dead zone, where the mana currents have been completely choked off. Vane follows, confident that his raw speed will end this in seconds. He doesn't realize that in a place without mana, rank doesn't mean a thing. The assassin lunges, his movements blurring with supernatural high-tier grace. Do-yun ducks, his reflexes honed by 10,000 years of absolute hell. He plants his boot and slams his shoulder into Vane's chest. It's a brutal, street-level hit that knocks the wind right out of the assassin. Vane stumbles, shocked that his mana shield didn't even flicker to life. He tries to call his energy, but the dead zone suppresses everything. It's just muscle against muscle. And guess what? Do-yun has the edge. He spent 10 millennia fighting without a system to hold his hand. He doesn't need mana to break a man's jaw. Do-yun delivers a clean, precise strike to the assassin's throat. Vane gasps, clawing at his neck, his eyes wide with pure, unadulterated panic. He's used to being a god, and now he's just a punching bag. Do-yun doesn't let up, raining down blows that don't rely on magic at all. Every punch lands with the weight of a decade of survival training. The assassin tries to pull a hidden dagger, but he's already too slow. Do-yun twists his arm, snapping the wrist with a sharp, sickening crack. Vane hits the wet pavement, his confidence shattered along with his bones. He's an S-rank, but he's getting schooled by a guy on a mission. Do-yun stands over him, panting, his own body screaming in protest. He doesn't need to use his void shatter to finish the job. He just needs to show the assassin who's really in control. Vane tries to crawl away, but Do-yun steps on his remaining hand. He basically tells the guy that the hierarchy is a complete joke. The assassin stares up, terrified, finally realizing he's out of his league. Do-yun isn't just a scavenger, he's a relic of a dead world. He leaves Vane in the dirt, broken and unable to follow him further. He doesn't kill him, because a broken hunter is a better warning. He turns his back on the S-rank and walks into the darkness. He's done with the games, and the real revolution is just starting. The dead zone is quiet again, save for the sound of the rain. Do-yun knows he's pushed himself to the absolute limit today. He's bleeding, he's exhausted, but he's still standing. The general might have an army, but he's running out of pieces. And just like that, the hunter becomes the hunted. Do-yun disappears into the shadows, leaving behind a very confused, very broken assassin. He's moving toward the grid, and nothing is going to stop him now. The Iron Tower is going to fall, and he's the one holding the hammer. Bad idea to mess with him, right? He's a ghost with a grudge, and he's got a city to burn. The night is long, and he's only just getting started. Vane spits blood onto the cracked asphalt. He tries to draw a blade from his hidden sleeve. Do-yun doesn't give him the satisfaction. He stomps on the assassin's wrist. Bone crunches like dry kindling under his boot. The S-rank screams, a pathetic high-pitched sound. Guess what? Even gods bleed when you take away their toys. Vane is gasping for air, clutching his mangled arm. He can't believe a rankless scavenger is doing this. Do-yun leans down, his face a mask of cold fury. He basically tells the guy that hierarchy is for losers. The assassin tries to blink away the haze of pain. He looks for a spark of mana, a flicker of light. Nothing happens. The dead zone is a total vacuum for his ego. Do-yun stands up, his lungs burning with every breath. He stares at the skyline of the capital. The Iron Tower looms in the distance like a tombstone. General Park is probably sipping wine, feeling safe. Big mistake. Do-yun reaches into his pocket and pulls out a shard. It's a fragment of an ancient crystallized mana core. He crushes it in his bare hand. Dust drifts away in the cold, rain-soaked wind. He doesn't need it for a buff. He needs it to track the general's private signal. The assassin watches him, eyes wide with pure terror. He realizes this guy isn't just a survivor. He's a walking, breathing anomaly. Do-yun turns his back on the broken mess of a man. He walks toward the perimeter of the dead zone. His footsteps echo against the crumbling concrete walls. Vane tries to drag himself toward a dark alleyway. He's looking for a way to call for backup. Do-yun doesn't even look back. He knows the guy is finished. He reaches the edge of the mana-nullifying field. The air starts to hum with a low, static charge. He can feel his soul core beginning to knit itself back. The pain is sharp, like needles under his skin. He ignores it. He's got a date with a general. He steps out of the shadows and into the main street. A patrol of elite guards turns the corner. They see the blood on his hands and his torn clothes. They raise their rifles, shouting for him to freeze. Do-yun doesn't stop. He doesn't even slow down. He just smiles, a sharp, dangerous look. He's already calculated their reaction times. He's already mapped their blind spots. The lead guard pulls the trigger. Do-yun pivots, a blur of motion in the dim light. He kicks a loose metal pipe into the guard's legs. The guy goes down like a sack of potatoes. Another guard charges with a shock baton. Do-yun catches his wrist mid-swing. He twists, using the guy's momentum against him. The guard slams headfirst into a brick wall. Lights out, and just like that, the patrol is a pile of scrap. Do-yun keeps moving toward the tower's main gate. He's not hiding anymore. He's walking through the front door. The cameras track his progress, flooding the lobby with alarms. He doesn't care. He wants them to see him coming. He wants them to know it's over. He pushes through the heavy steel doors. The reception desk is empty, abandoned, in a panic. He walks straight to the elevator bank. He slams his palm against the emergency release. The doors slide open, revealing a pristine marble shaft. He steps inside, watching the floors tick upward. The higher he gets, the thicker the mana becomes. His body feels heavy, the pressure mounting in his veins. He's nearing the lion's den. He adjusts his stance, tightening his grip on his belt. He's ready to tear this place down brick by brick. The elevator dings. The doors slide open to a velvet-draped hall. General Park is standing there, waiting for him. He's holding a glass of amber liquid, looking bored. He asks if Do-yun enjoyed the little warm-up outside. Do-yun doesn't say a word. He just starts walking toward the man. The general sighs, waving a hand at the shadows. A dozen elite guards materialize from the darkness. They're all S-rank, all geared to the teeth. Do-yun looks at them, then back at the general. Think he's worried? He reaches for the hidden blade strapped to his thigh. This isn't a fight anymore. It's an execution. The guards charge, weapons glowing with lethal intensity. Do-yun lunges to meet them. He's a ghost in the machine, moving between the lines. He ducks a spear, pivots, and kicks a guard's chest. The impact sounds like a thunderclap in the quiet hall. The guard flies backward, smashing into the mahogany desk. Do-yun doesn't stop to admire the wreckage. He's already on to the next target. He slides under a sweeping blade, his hand finding a throat. He applies pressure, and the guard goes limp instantly. It's clinical. It's fast. It's 10,000 years of experience in a single room. The general finally sets his glass down. He looks annoyed, like he's losing a game of cards. He asks if Do-yun thinks he's the hero of the story. Do-yun laughs, a dry, rasping sound. He basically tells the general he's just a footnote. The general's face turns bright red with rage. He draws a heavy, glowing pistol from his holster. He aims it right at Do-yun's heart. Do-yun keeps walking, his eyes locked on the trigger. He's counting the seconds. He's watching the way the guy's finger twitches. He's already won this, hasn't he? The general fires. Do-yun shifts his weight, the bullet grazing his shoulder. He doesn't flinch. He's right in the general's face now. He grabs the pistol and snaps the frame in half. The general stumbles back, tripping over his own rug. He looks up, finally seeing the monster he created. Do-yun looms over him, blocking out the light. The tower shakes again, the foundation screaming. The harvest is coming to a close. The bill is due, and the general is broke. Do-yun raises his hand, the air crackling with dark energy. He's not holding back this time. He's not playing for scraps. He's here to collect the debt. And just like that, the world goes silent. The general tries to beg for his life. Do-yun doesn't listen. He's heard it all before. He's a relic of a dead world. He's the end of the line. He brings his hand down. The floor beneath them shatters into a million pieces. The general falls into the dark, screaming for help. Do-yun doesn't look down. He turns toward the window, looking at the city. The grid is failing, the lights flickering out. The revolution is officially underway. He's tired, he's hurt, but he's never felt better. He's a ghost with a grudge. He's got a city to burn. The secret files from the Iron Tower are finally out. Do-yun didn't just leak the data. He broadcast it on every public screen in the city. The citizens watch as the footage reveals General Hwan-seok Park harvesting essence from the people. The mood in the slums shifts in a heartbeat. The fear that kept them quiet for years turns into pure, unadulterated rage. People start pouring into the streets, burning their ration cards and tearing down government banners. It's a total riot. Our boy watches from a rooftop, his face hidden in the shadows. He knows exactly what he's doing. The Capital Defense Force is scrambling to contain the uprising. Their airships hover above the chaos, spotlights scanning the mob for leaders. But Do-yun isn't interested in the street fight. He's looking at the city's heart, the massive power grid generators pulsing with blue light. If he takes those down, the airships lose their fuel. Without that power, the Defense Force is just a bunch of guys in fancy suits. He leaps from the roof, landing silently in an alleyway choked with debris. He's not using his void shatter yet. He needs to stay under the radar for just a little longer. A squad of elite guards blocks the main entrance to the generator complex. They look nervous, their eyes darting toward the screaming crowds outside. Big mistake. Do-yun moves before they can even raise their rifles. He kicks a heavy trash bin, sending it flying into the lead guard's chest. The guy collapses, his gear clattering against the concrete. The others turn, but Do-yun is already inside their guard. He uses the butt of a stolen pistol to crack a skull. 1, 2, 3. He drops them like dominoes. And just like that, the path to the generator core is clear. He walks into the humming chamber, the air thick with static electricity. The machines here are massive, pumping mana into the city's grid like a heartbeat. He approaches the central console, his fingers dancing over the cold steel. He knows the frequency that keeps these things running. He's seen this tech 1,000 times in his long, lonely life. He jams a small, jagged piece of scrap metal into the primary circuit. The machine starts to whine, the blue light flickering to a sickly, unstable yellow. He doesn't wait for the explosion. He just walks away. He's already moving to the next generator bank across the hall. The city starts to tremble as the first grid fails. Outside, the airships begin to sputter and drop. They tilt, their engines whining as they lose altitude over the burning streets. The crowd cheers, the sound echoing off the skyscraper walls. Do-yun moves to the second generator. He doesn't need to shatter reality for this. He just needs to break the machine. He pulls a wire, bypasses the safety, and shorts the entire system. A massive surge of energy blows the circuit board to bits. Sparks shower the floor like fireworks. The lights in the entire district vanish, plunging the area into darkness. The defense force is grounded. They're blind, they're trapped, and they're outnumbered. Think he stops there? He's only getting started. He moves through the complex like a ghost, systematically disabling every power source. Each one goes dark with a satisfying thud. The city's hierarchy is falling apart in real time. The elite hunters who relied on the grid for their weapons are now powerless. They're just regular guys in expensive armor now. Do-yun reaches the final, largest generator in the basement. This is the one that powers General Park's private estate. He places his hand on the metal casing. He can feel the vibration of the city's stolen essence inside. He closes his eyes and pushes just a sliver of his power into the seam of the machine. The generator groans. The metal starts to warp and twist like paper. It doesn't just break, it folds into itself, vanishing into a tiny, crushing void. The floor beneath him gives a violent jolt. The entire basement begins to cave in. He turns and sprints for the exit, his boots hitting the stairs in a rhythm of pure speed. He bursts out into the alley just as the building behind him shudders and tilts. The revolution is officially in full swing. The citizens are taking back their city, one block at a time. General Park's power is gone. His airships are scrap metal, and his guards are running for their lives. Do-yun stands in the rain, watching the city burn. He's tired. His soul core is screaming in protest, but he's never felt more alive. The hierarchy is dead. The Void Survivor finally has the city exactly where he wants it. He's going to make sure the general pays for every single lie. And just like that, the game changes forever. Smoke curls from the ruins of the basement, thick and acrid. The ground still trembles beneath his boots, a rhythmic, bone-deep shudder. Our boy doesn't look back at the wreckage. Why would he? The job is done, and the foundation of the city is rotting from the inside out. He leans against a brick wall, catching his breath as the rain washes the soot from his face. Across the street, the elite hunters are scrambling like ants in a flooded nest. They try to activate their mana-infused blades, but the air around them is dead. No hum. No glow, nothing. Just cold steel and panic. Big mistake, thinking their tech was permanent. Do-yun watches one of them, a guy in polished silver armor, try to force a spark from his wrist gauntlet. The guy smacks the device, screams, and then gets tackled by a mob of angry civilians. It's a total bloodbath. The hierarchy they built is officially in the dumpster. He shifts his weight, feeling the sharp ache in his side where the void energy cut him earlier. It's a reminder that he's playing with fire, but he doesn't care. He pulls a small, jagged crystal from his pocket, the last piece of the generator's core. It pulses with a faint, dying light before turning to gray dust in his grip. He brushes his hands off and steps into the alleyway. His target isn't the mob, and it isn't the guards. He's heading straight for the general's private vault. The city's central surveillance grid is still trying to lock on to his heat signature, but the massive power failure has left them blind. He moves through the shadows, a ghost in a city that's forgotten how to be afraid. A patrol of heavily armed soldiers turns the corner, their rifles raised. They're not using mana weapons anymore, just old-fashioned lead and gunpowder. Do-Yun doesn't even break stride. He slides behind a dumpster, waits for them to pass, and trips the last guy in line. The soldier hits the pavement with a wet thud. Before he can yell, Do-Yun has his hand over the guy's mouth. He whispers a quick, cold threat in his ear, promising a world of pain if he makes a sound. The soldier goes limp, his eyes wide with pure, unadulterated terror. Do-Yun leaves him in the trash and keeps moving. He reaches the heavy, reinforced doors of the vault. These doors were built to withstand a tactical nuke, let alone a riot. But he knows the flaw in the locking mechanism. It's an old design, one that relies on a specific sequence of mana flow. Since the grid is dead, the locks are stuck in a manual override state. He pulls a thin copper wire from his sleeve and starts picking the tumblers. Click, click. The massive steel slab groans and swings open just an inch. He slips inside, the air suddenly freezing and smelling of ozone. The vault is packed with crates of refined essence, the very stuff stolen from the citizens outside. He walks past piles of gold and illegal artifacts, ignoring the glitter. His eyes are on the central pedestal. There, resting on a velvet cushion, is the master key. It's the device that controls the city's remaining life support systems. If he takes it, the general loses his leverage over the entire population. Think he hesitates? Not for a second. He grabs the key, and the entire room lights up with a blinding crimson alarm. Sirens scream through the hallways, a shrill, piercing sound that makes his teeth ache. He knows the general is already on his way. He can hear the heavy thud of boots hitting the floorboards above him. Do-Yun pockets the key and looks for an exit. There's a service vent in the corner, just big enough for a guy his size. He kicks the grate off, the metal screeching against the stone. He climbs inside, his boots scraping against the narrow tunnel. Above him, the vault door is blasted off its hinges. General Park storms into the room, his face twisted in a mask of pure rage. He's surrounded by his personal guard, all of them aiming their weapons at the empty pedestal. The general screams, demanding to know where the thief went. His voice is high, frantic, and completely pathetic. Do-Yun, crawling through the vent, can't help but smirk. He's got the key, the power is dead, and the city is burning. The general is finished, and he doesn't even know it yet. Do-Yun reaches the end of the vent and kicks it open, dropping into a supply closet. He steps out into the main corridor, blending in with the fleeing staff. Nobody looks at him twice. They're all too busy running for their lives as the building begins to shake. He walks toward the main exit, his heart hammering against his ribs. Outside, the sky is turning a bruised, angry purple. The riot has reached the gates of the estate. The crowd is shouting for blood, their voices a roar that drowns out the sirens. Do-Yun steps out into the chaos, the cold rain hitting his face. He pulls the master key from his pocket and holds it up to the dim streetlights. It glows with a warm, steady blue, the only clean thing in this entire hellhole. He looks toward the general's balcony, where the man is standing, looking down at his lost kingdom. Do-Yun raises the key, makes sure the general sees it, and then crushes it in his fist. The blue light shatters, fragments of energy raining down like sparks. The general's eyes go wide, his mouth hanging open in silent disbelief. He knows it's over, and just like that, the last of the general's power vanishes. The estate lights flicker and die, plunging the entire compound into absolute darkness. The mob surges forward, the gates buckling under their combined weight. Do-Yun turns his back on the scene, walking calmly into the sea of people. He's just another face in the crowd now, a nobody with a secret that would burn the world down. He's done his part. The rest is up to them. He checks his pulse, his soul core finally quiet, the burning sensation fading into a dull hum. He's survived, he's won, and he's ready for whatever comes next. Guess what? The real fun is only just beginning. The compound is a wreck, but General Hwanseok Park isn't finished yet. He steps out from the shadows of his private sanctum, his uniform torn to shreds. He isn't just a man anymore. His skin ripples with a nauseating violet light. Thick, chitinous plates erupt from his shoulder blades, tearing through his expensive coat. It's a rift beast, fused directly into his spine. The guy looks like a walking nightmare, all teeth and pulsating raw mana. Do-Yun stands his ground, his eyes narrowing at the twisted biomechanical mess. He's seen plenty of trash in the void, but this is a new low. The general laughs, a sound like grinding metal. He tells Do-yun that he's the only one who truly understands the gift of the rifts. He basically says he's the god of this new, broken world. Big mistake. Do-yun doesn't say a word. He just shifts his weight, his soul core humming a warning against his ribs. Park lunges, his arm transforming into a massive, jagged blade of solidified essence. The floor tiles shatter under his weight. Do-yun slides to the left, the blade missing his throat by an inch. He's fast, but our boy has been fighting for 10,000 years. He knows exactly how these beasts move. Park swings again, his movements erratic and fueled by pure, unadulterated madness. Do-yun ducks, his palm grazing the general's chest. He feels the cold, unnatural hum of the rift beast underneath. He tries to strike, but the beast's hide is thick as steel. Void shatter won't work on the outside. It's too dense, too reinforced with stolen essence. Do-yun takes a hit, a massive claw slamming into his side. He flies back, crashing through a marble pillar. Pain flares, white-hot and blinding. He coughs up blood, his vision blurring for a split second. The general walks toward him, savoring the kill. He asks if that's all the legendary scavenger has to offer. Do-yun wipes his mouth, a cold, sharp smirk playing on his lips. He knows the trick. He doesn't need to break the armor, he just needs to find the seam. He focuses on the connection point, where the beast's flesh meets the man's heart. That's the weak spot. Do-yun stands up, his breathing ragged. He channels every ounce of his remaining soul core into his hand. The air around him starts to warp, turning into a jagged, shimmering mirror. Park stops, his eyes widening as he senses the shift in reality. He yells, charging forward to stop the inevitable. Too late. Do-yun thrusts his hand forward, not at the beast, but at the empty space inside the armor. Void shatter activates. The space within the general's chest cavity collapses instantly. It's not a punch. It's a vacuum, tearing the fusion apart from the inside out. The general freezes. His eyes pop, his mouth opening in a silent, agonizing scream. The chitinous plates on his back start to buckle and fold inward. It's a gruesome sight, the beast and the man being crushed by their own biology. And just like that, the general's power vanishes. His armor disintegrates into gray dust, falling away in ragged chunks. He collapses to his knees, his face pale and unrecognizable. The beast is gone, leaving him hollowed out and pathetic. Do-yun walks over, his shadow looming over the broken man. He asks the general how it feels to finally lose everything. Park tries to speak, but only blood bubbles from his lips. He's done. Do-yun turns his back, leaving the tyrant to rot in his own ruins. The city is still screaming outside, but the nightmare is finally over. Guess what? The real work is just starting. He checks his pulse, the soul core burning cold and steady. He's alive, and the world is about to change forever. The general's body convulses as the last of the rift essence drains away into the floorboards. His skin turns a sickly, translucent gray, shedding the chitinous plates like dead leaves. Do-yun doesn't even blink. He watches the bastard wither into a pile of pathetic, shivering meat. The silence in the room is deafening. Outside, the city is still burning, but in here, time feels like it's frozen. Park tries to crawl, his fingers clawing at the expensive carpet. He's looking for a weapon, a scrap of power, anything to save his worthless hide. Do-yun kicks his hand away with the tip of his boot. That's enough, he says. The general looks up, his eyes bloodshot and filled with pure, unadulterated terror. He tries to bargain, whispering promises of gold and hidden caches of rift essence. Do-yun just lets out a short, cold laugh. He tells the man that his currency is as worthless as his life. The general's jaw hangs open, his spirit finally breaking under the weight of his own failure. He realizes that for the first time in his life, nobody is coming to save him. Do-yun reaches down and grabs the general by his tattered collar. He hauls the guy up until their faces are inches apart. The smell of ozone and rot is thick enough to choke on. Do-yun asks him how it feels to finally be at the bottom of the food chain. The general just wheezes, blood bubbling up and spilling over his chin. He's absolutely done. Do-yun drops him like a sack of garbage. He turns his back and walks toward the balcony, scanning the horizon for the next threat. The city is a chaotic mess of sirens and smoke. Guess what? The power vacuum is already starting to pull the scavengers out of the woodwork. Do-yun feels the hum in his soul core shift. It's no longer a warning, but a steady, rhythmic pulse. He looks at his hands, seeing the faint, glowing veins of rift energy fading beneath his skin. He's still holding on to a massive amount of stolen essence. If he doesn't vent it soon, he's going to turn into a crater. He walks past the general's desk, smashing a priceless artifact with his elbow just for the hell of it. The sound of shattering glass is the only music he needs. A guard slams the door open, sword drawn and eyes wide with panic. The guy freezes, staring at the carnage on the floor. He sees the general, broken and bleeding, and then he sees Do-yun. The guard's legs start shaking like a leaf. He doesn't know whether to run or attack. Do-yun stares him down with a look that would freeze a demon solid. He tells the guard that the general is taking a nap. If he wants to keep his head, he should keep walking. The guard turns around and bolts without a second thought. Smart kid. Do-yun steps out onto the balcony, feeling the cold night air hit his face. The city lights are flickering and dying, one by one. It's a beautiful sight. The hierarchy he spent years trying to dismantle is finally collapsing under its own weight. But there's a problem. The rift gate above the capital hasn't closed. It's pulsing with a deep, rhythmic crimson light. Something is trying to push through from the other side. Something much bigger than a pathetic, fused-up general. Do-yun feels his stomach drop. He's out of time. He needs a new source of stability, or he's going to burn out in 5 minutes. He looks down at the city streets, spotting a familiar glowing signature near the main power hub. The black market broker he dealt with earlier. That snake is definitely trying to salvage the remaining essence from the grid. Do-yun vaults over the balcony railing, dropping 3 stories into the darkness. He lands in a crouch, his boots silent on the stone. He starts moving, a blur of motion through the narrow, debris-filled alleyways. He's not running away. He's hunting. He reaches the power hub, finding a group of mercenaries guarding the entrance. They're heavily armed, wearing high-grade kinetic armor and carrying pulse rifles. They look like they've been waiting for this exact moment. Do-yun doesn't hesitate. He doesn't even bother with a warning. He lunges into the center of their formation, his movements fluid and precise. He doesn't need his full power to take these clowns out. He uses the environment, slamming a mercenary against a brick wall and using his weapon to trip the next one. It's a total clinic. Within seconds, the group is on the ground, groaning in the dirt. Do-yun keeps moving, kicking the door of the hub off its hinges. Inside, the broker is frantically typing into a console, trying to siphon the remaining energy. He spins around, his eyes widening as he recognizes our boy. He starts babbling about a misunderstanding. He says he's just a businessman doing what he's told. Do-yun walks over, his shadow stretching long across the flickering monitors. He tells the guy to stop talking before he loses his tongue. The broker freezes, his hands hovering over the keyboard. Do-yun looks at the console, seeing the massive flow of essence being funneled into a storage container. It's enough to stabilize his core for a lifetime. He grabs the broker by the hair and slams his head onto the control panel. The guy goes limp, blood smearing across the screen. Do-yun starts rerouting the energy flow, his fingers flying across the keys. He's not just taking it for himself. He's dumping the excess back into the city's defense grid. If he can't close the rift, he's going to build a cage for whatever comes through. The energy starts to hum, a low, vibrating sound that shakes the floor. The console lights turn from angry red to a stable, calm blue. Do-yun feels the heat in his chest begin to recede. It's working. He's finally in control of the situation, but the sky outside starts to darken, the clouds swirling into a massive, unnatural vortex. A low, guttural roar echoes across the entire city. It's not a beast, it's something else, something that smells like the void. Do-yun walks back to the entrance of the hub, peering out into the night. A massive, shadowy figure is descending from the rift. It's huge, easily the size of a skyscraper. The city guards are opening fire, but their shots just vanish into the creature's aura. Do-yun smiles, a sharp, dangerous expression. Guess what? The real fight is finally here. He checks his gear, tightening the straps on his armor. He's ready for the end of the world. And he's going to make sure he's the one who gets the last word. He sprints toward the center of the plaza, leaping across the rooftops. The creature's shadow is growing, swallowing the streets in total darkness. People are screaming, but Do-yun doesn't even hear them. He's focused on the kill. He pulls a jagged, ancient dagger from his belt, the blade humming with trapped void energy. He's going to climb this thing like a mountain. He reaches the edge of the plaza and dives into the fray. The creature lashes out with a massive, clawed hand. Do-yun dodges, sliding under the strike and slashing at the creature's ankle. Black ichor sprays everywhere, burning the pavement like acid. The monster howls, the sound vibrating through Do-yun's very bones. He doesn't stop. He scrambles up the creature's leg, his fingers digging into the thick, leathery hide. This is going to be a long night. But he's lived through 10,000 years of hell. A little monster isn't going to stop him now. He reaches the creature's knee, bracing himself against a protruding scale. He looks up, seeing the creature's massive, glowing eyes staring down at him. It's cold, ancient, and completely empty. Do-yun drives his dagger into the hide, anchoring himself for the next climb. He's the parasite in the machine, and he's about to tear it apart from the inside. He feels the creature's mana surging, trying to shake him off. He grips the handle of his blade until his knuckles turn white. He's not going anywhere. The creature starts to fly, rising into the air with a deafening beat of its wings. The city shrinks beneath them, becoming a grid of tiny, flickering lights. Do-yun holds on, his hair whipping in the freezing wind. He's at the edge of the atmosphere now. The air is thin, but he doesn't need to breathe. He's a scavenger, and he's found the biggest prize of his life. He pulls himself up to the next scale, his eyes locked on the creature's throat. One good hit should do it. But the creature starts to spin, trying to throw him off into the void. Do-yun braces his feet, his muscles screaming under the pressure. He's not letting go. He's the one who's going to decide how this story ends. He waits for the perfect moment. The creature slows down, hovering for a split second to reset its flight path. Do-yun lunges, his body a streak of shadow against the dark sky. He lands on the creature's neck, his blade raised high. He doesn't hesitate. He drives the dagger deep into the creature's hide, channeling every ounce of his remaining essence. The void energy erupts, a blinding flash of white light that swallows the entire sky. The creature lets out one final, earth-shaking roar. Then it begins to fall. Do-yun rides the descent, his eyes fixed on the city below. They're heading straight for the capital. If he doesn't steer this thing, he's going to level the entire district. He grabs the creature's mane, pulling with all his strength. It's like trying to turn a falling star with a rope. But he's Do-yun, and he doesn't know how to fail. He leans into the turn, his body straining as the creature's trajectory starts to shift. They're missing the city center. They're heading toward the abandoned industrial zone. Perfect. He lets go of the mane and pushes off, soaring through the air. He lands on a rooftop, watching as the massive beast crashes into the wasteland. The explosion is massive, a shockwave that knocks the wind out of everything for miles. Dust and debris billow into the sky, blocking out the stars. Do-yun stands up, wiping the black ichor from his face. He's still breathing. He's still standing. He looks at the crater, seeing the glow of the creature's dying mana. It's over. He's won. But he knows better than to celebrate too early. He checks his pulse, finding it steady and cold. He's got a lot of work to do before the sun comes up. The city is quiet now, the sirens silenced by the sheer scale of the crash. People are starting to crawl out of their hiding spots, looking up at the sky. They see the smoke, the fire, and the silhouette of a man standing on a rooftop. They don't know who he is. They don't know what he's done. But they know one thing for sure. The nightmare is finally, truly, over. Do-yun turns away, vanishing into the shadows of the city. He's done his part. The rest is up to them. He's just a ghost in the machine now. And ghost stories are the only thing that keep the world honest. He walks through the empty streets, the silence of the city his only company. He's tired, but his mind is already racing. There's always another rift. There's always another monster. And as long as he's breathing, he's going to be the one to hunt them down. He finds a quiet corner, sits down, and closes his eyes. He's not going to sleep. He's just going to listen. Listen to the heartbeat of a world that doesn't even know it's been saved. He smiles to himself. It's a good start. The real game is just beginning, and he's the one holding all the cards. He stands up, his shadow merging with the dark. He's gone before the first light touches the horizon. The city wakes up, unaware of the man who died 10,000 times to keep it alive. But that's fine. He doesn't need their thanks. He just needs the hunt. And the hunt never ends. He disappears into the alley, leaving the city behind. He's headed for the next gate. He's headed for the source, and he won't stop until the rifts are closed for good. That's his promise. And he always keeps his promises. The wind picks up, blowing the last of the dust from the rooftops. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. But deep beneath the surface, the earth is humming. The rifts are waiting. And so is he. The dust from the industrial zone settles, but the city isn't quiet anymore. General Hwanseok Park's armored husk lies shattered like a discarded toy. Our boy Do-young Kang stands over the ruins, his breathing ragged and shallow. He looks at his hands, watching the faint, translucent glow of his skin. The void shatter took more than just the general's life. It took a chunk of his own existence. The sky above the capital isn't clearing up. Instead, the fractured sky is swirling into a violent, violet vortex. Sirens wail across the districts, but there's no one left to lead the charge. The capital defense force is leaderless, broken, and terrified. Soldiers drop their rifles, staring at the swirling nightmare above the clouds. The hierarchy is dead, and the power vacuum is sucking everyone in. Do-young knows what happens next. Chaos, looting, total, unadulterated collapse. He steps onto a high-speed transit rail, his silhouette cutting against the neon smog. He's not hiding anymore. He can't. He walks straight into the middle of the central plaza. Thousands of eyes lock onto him. They see the man who took down the Iron Tower, the man who killed the general. He doesn't look like a savior. He looks like a ghost that crawled out of a grave. A captain from the remaining defense unit steps forward, trembling. The guy asks if Do-young is the one responsible for the sky. Do-young just stares at him with those cold, empty eyes. He basically tells the guy to shut his mouth and look up. The crowd gasps as the rift above them tears wider. It's not just an opening anymore. It's an expansion. The energy leaking out is turning the air into static. Do-young realizes the truth, and it hits him like a sledgehammer. The general wasn't the only thing holding the rifts closed. His own presence, his own interference, is accelerating the collapse. He's the catalyst for the end of the world. Talk about a bad day, right? He turns to the crowd, his voice echoing through the plaza. He tells them that the era of the hierarchy is over. He warns them that the sky is coming down, whether they like it or not. Some of them start to panic, screaming for their families. Others just freeze, paralyzed by the sheer scale of the threat. Do-young doesn't give them time to weep. He needs to stabilize the boundary, or they're all erased. He taps into his core, feeling the familiar burning itch of the void. His body flickers, turning into smoke for a split second. The cost is getting higher every time he pulls this stunt. He's literally deleting himself to fix the mess. Not a chance. He surges forward, leaping onto the central spire of the city. The mana nullifier fields he destroyed earlier are still flickering, dying. He needs to jumpstart the grid, but not for power. He needs to use the city's own architecture as a lightning rod. He drives his hand into the cold steel of the spire. His energy flows outward, a web of white light catching the violet cracks above. The ground shakes, tossing people off their feet. Buildings groan under the pressure of the shifting space. The rift begins to tighten, the violet glow receding just an inch, but the sky screams back. It's not just a rift anymore. It's a living, hungry maw. Do-young feels his soul core cracking, spiderwebbing under the strain. He's burning his own life force to keep the ceiling from falling. He looks down at the people below, his vision blurring at the edges. They're still alive because he's holding the door shut. He's the only thing standing between them and total annihilation. The captain from earlier finally realizes what's happening. He shouts for his men to help, but there's nothing they can do. They're just spectators to a god-tier struggle. Do-young grunts, his knees hitting the metal floor. He's fading, his left arm turning into nothing but starlight. He's losing the bet. The void is winning. He grins, a jagged, broken expression. He's spent 10,000 years in the dark. He isn't going to let a little sky tear finish him off now. He forces his core to shatter in a controlled, localized burst. The sound is like glass breaking in a silent room. Everything stops. The wind dies. The violet light freezes in place. Do-young's body is a wreck, but the sky is holding. For now, the capital is safe. But he knows this is just a temporary patch. He's bought them time, but the source of the rift is still out there. He pulls his hand from the spire, leaving a scorched, glowing mark behind. He's exhausted, his energy reserves hitting absolute zero. He glances at the horizon, seeing the shadows of something even bigger. The crisis is just getting started, and he's the only one who knows the truth. He jumps down from the spire, landing silently in the alley. He's a ghost again. Nobody tries to stop him. They're too busy staring at the sky. He walks into the darkness, his steps heavy. He's got a debt to pay, and the world is running out of time. The real nightmare begins. The violet static in the air starts to taste like ozone and burnt copper. Do-yun staggers back from the spire as the metal beneath his feet turns a dull, sickly gray. The crowd below isn't cheering anymore. They're watching the sky tear open like a cheap fabric. Our boy looks up and sees the rift isn't closing. It's pulsing. It's breathing. The rift is feeding on the energy he just dumped into the grid. Big mistake. He realizes the city's infrastructure was never meant to hold a god-tier tier. It was a battery, and he just short-circuited the whole damn world. The captain of the guard is still standing there, mouth agape, looking like a fish out of water. He asks if the sky is going to fall on their heads. Do-yun doesn't even look at him. He just tells the guy to clear the plaza before the gravity shifts. The captain doesn't argue. He's seen enough to know our boy is the only one who isn't completely clueless. Do-yun's vision swims with jagged black spots. The cost of that last move is hitting his central nervous system like a freight train. His skin feels like it's being peeled away by invisible needles. He needs a new plan, and he needs it 5 minutes ago. He spots the old abandoned subway entrance near the plaza's edge. That's where the city's ancient foundation stones are buried. If he can tap into those, he might be able to anchor the local space. He starts moving, but his legs feel like lead weights. Every step is a battle against his own failing body. The crowd parts for him like he's the plague incarnate. They're terrified, and honestly, who can blame them? He's the guy who just broke the world. He reaches the subway stairs and nearly trips over a discarded high-tech rifle. He kicks it aside without a second thought. The darkness of the tunnel is a welcome relief from the blinding purple glare above. He descends into the damp, cold silence of the lower levels. The air down here is thick with the smell of mold and old secrets. He isn't alone. Faint, skittering noises echo from the deeper tunnels. Rift beasts are already leaking through the cracks in the foundation. Of course they are. Our boy draws his blade, though his hand is shaking like a leaf. He doesn't have the energy for a fancy light show. He has to rely on pure, brutal efficiency. A shadow lunges from the ceiling, all teeth and jagged bone. He doesn't flinch. He sidesteps, letting the beast slam into the concrete wall. Then he drives his blade into the creature's neck, pinning it to the floor. 1 down, 100 more to go. He keeps moving, his breath coming in ragged, painful gasps. He needs to reach the main junction where the city's ley lines intersect. The walls start to vibrate with a low, rhythmic thrum. That's the sound of the world trying to reset itself. It's a violent, messy process. He reaches the junction and finds the seals are already glowing red. They're failing. He drops to his knees, his hands trembling as he reaches for the central node. He doesn't try to force it this time. He starts to weave a complex, ancient sequence he learned back in the void. It's delicate work. One wrong move, and the whole tunnel collapses on his head. Think he's worried? Not even a little. The ceiling groans as the pressure from the sky above starts to bear down. Dust rains down on his shoulders, coating his hair in gray grit. He keeps his focus, his brow beaded with cold, freezing sweat. The node begins to pulse, shifting from a chaotic red to a stable, calm blue. He's buying them a heartbeat of peace, but he knows it's not enough. He needs to bridge the gap between the city and the rift permanently. He pulls a small obsidian shard from his pouch. It's a remnant of the last rift he destroyed. He presses it into the junction, feeling the stone bite into his palm. Blood drips onto the floor, dark and thick. The shard starts to glow, drinking his essence like a starving animal. He feels his life force draining away into the machine. His sight starts to fade, the edges of his vision turning into a blur of white noise. He's betting everything on this one, desperate gamble. The floor beneath him begins to hum with a harmonic frequency. It's working. The sky above the city stops its wild, violent swirling. The violet light settles into a stable, pulsing ring. The rift is locked in place. But the cost? He's barely conscious. He slumps against the wall, his chest rising and falling in shallow, jagged motions. He's done. The silence in the tunnel is deafening. He listens to the sound of his own heart, slow and steady, fighting to keep going. He's a ghost in a machine he just fixed, and the world above has no idea what he just sacrificed. He closes his eyes for a second, just to catch his breath. A soft, metallic click echoes through the chamber. He isn't alone anymore. Footsteps approach, slow and deliberate. A figure steps into the light, holding a strange, glowing lantern. It's the broker from the black market, the one who sold him the herbs. The guy looks around the room, his eyes widening at the stabilized node. He smiles, a thin, oily expression that doesn't reach his eyes. He tells Du-yun that he's quite the miracle worker. Du-yun just glares at him, his energy reserves hovering near zero. The broker doesn't care about the risk or the cost. He's only interested in the power radiating from the junction. He asks if our boy is planning to share the spoils. Do-yun laughs, a dry, rasping sound that hurts his throat. He tells the guy he's welcome to try and take it. The broker hesitates, his eyes flicking to the glowing shard. He knows better than to mess with a wounded beast. He turns and leaves, his footsteps fading back into the darkness. Do-yun is left alone with his thoughts and the dying light. He needs to get out of here before the guards realize what's happening. He pushes himself up, his muscles screaming in protest. He limps toward the surface, the weight of the world on his shoulders. The exit is blocked by a pile of rubble. He has to climb over it, his fingers raw and bleeding. He finally breaks through to the surface, gasping for fresh air. The city is a mess, but the sky is holding steady for now. He looks up and sees the ring of light, a scar on the horizon. He did it. But the price was his own strength. He's vulnerable now, and he knows it. He's just a man in a city of monsters. And the real hunt is only just beginning. The shadows in the alleyway start to move, closing in on his position. He grins, a cold, sharp expression. He's ready for them. The city is tearing itself apart. The fractured sky isn't just leaking energy anymore, it's screaming. Violet light pours through the cracks in reality like liquid fire. Du-yun Kang stands on the highest spire of the Iron Tower. He's not looking at the panicked crowds below. He's looking at the epicenter of the collapse. The sky is literally folding in on itself. Our boy looks like he's been through a blender, and that's putting it mildly. His clothes are shredded. Blood drips from his chin, staining the white stone beneath his boots. He knows the math. If the rift expands another 100 meters, the city is toast. Nobody survives that. Not the rich, not the poor, not even the trash in the slums. He clenches his fist, feeling the last of his soul core burning. It's a cold, hollow ache in his chest. He isn't going to pull a rabbit out of his hat this time. The Void Shatter is his only card left, and he's going to play it. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't pray. He just steps off the edge of the spire into thin air. He's falling, but he's not scared. He's focused. He weaves his remaining mana into a singular, razor-sharp point. It's the most complex sequence he's ever attempted. One mistake, and he's erased from existence before he even hits the ground. Think he's worried? Not even a little. He reaches the heart of the rift, a swirling vortex of pure, raw energy. He slams his hand directly into the center of the storm. The feedback is instantaneous. His arm starts to phase, flickering like a dying light bulb. He's not just using his power. He's feeding his soul to the rift. He's basically turning his own essence into a structural patch. The sky shudders. The violet light turns a blinding, solid white. He screams, but the sound is swallowed by the roar of reality stitching itself shut. Everything goes silent. The wind stops. The energy fades. The sky above the city is finally clear, a simple, empty blue. The rift is gone. And so is our boy. There's nothing left on the spire but a smear of ash. The city-state is safe, the hierarchy is broken, and the threat is contained. But the silence in the air feels wrong. It's too heavy. Somewhere deep in the dark, between the gaps of the world, a voice chuckles. It's a low, grinding sound that vibrates in your own marrow. It knows the cost of what Do-yun did. It knows he didn't just save the world. He opened a door that can't be closed. You think it's over just because the sky stopped burning? You're watching the pieces fall into place, but you don't see the hand moving them. The cycle didn't break. It just found a new host. And now that you've seen the truth, you realize you're already standing in the shadow of the next collapse.